Hey, saw. Bah. Ay, utak saw. Go. Alaikum salam. Can we have a discussion? Yeah. Well, do you want to talk about this topic or any other topic? Let's see.
Hey brother, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Right. So I think you bring up really great points about the scholars betraying Islam, or the so-called scholars, if we even have any evidence if it was really them who wrote down all these hadiths. I think that's the biggest problem we have today in Islam, and why there's so many holes and so many of the young generation moving away from it, because they really imposed it over the Holy Quran, which is the final word, which is the hadith.
100%.
Yeah. And it says, who can we hold accountable? I think right after the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you've seen the Umayyads, how they jumped over it, and they really propagated. When they moved the capital of Islam from Medina to the Levant, Bilad al-Sham, that's where most of the Christians and the Jews resided. And Muawiyah employed them as scribes to make up all sorts of stuff, all in forgery in the name of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who we already know he was a staunch enemy of.
100%. Now, the issue that we have, as you've stated, the so-called scholars, the issue that we have is that we've been compromised for a significant time now. We have been persuaded to turn blind eyes. We have been told to leave the matter to the ulama and to the leaders. And every single occasion and every single time we've been disappointed on every aspect. The only excuse that they would give us is they're doing things on a political matter, and we have to allow them because they are the appointed leaders for us.
Yep.
Now, I don't know about everyone else, but those who have an intelligent, the mind to think, at some point you got to know when you're lied to. At some point you got to know the way the narcissists work, the way the evil people work. If they can convince you to lay down while you're stomped over by every kind of horrible things and told you just accept it, that only Allah allowed this to happen, you have to accept it. It's like, no, like something isn't adding up. Something isn't adding up. And that's the issue that we have now. And we can bring out a number of reasons. Well, one, it's been 100 years now, no Khalifa in sight, right?
So,
None of them want to bring it back. They all are very content and happy with their current predicament. And what is that? The fact that they are siding with the very enemies of Allah and His Rasul.
subhanallah.
That they're content with that. So who is then going to change this matter? Who is then responsible for this? Right? And that's the biggest issue here.
Yeah, so I think what we need to do individually as Muslims and inshallah collectively, in this conscious where there needs to be a shift of we need to come back to the Holy Quran, and we need to see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defined the Quran on His terms, not on the terms of opinions of so-called scholars. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the aql to use, and He promised guidance to those who come to the Quran with a good intention. The Quran says, يَهْدِ بِهِ كَثِيرًا وَيُذِلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرًا. And that's the thing. The Quran can guide and misguide depending on how you approach it. So, we need to come in and, use the evidence-based knowledge within the Quran. The Quran is mubin, but we have to be patient with it. We can't do the ajila. We can't rush with it. And I think that's where a lot of problems were. They were lazy. They were lazy and took the quick interpretation by the scholars.
Well, the concept should be very simple, right? If you have been, infected by an infection, let's say cancer, for example, right?
Yeah.
And you figured out that you've been diagnosed with it. There's immediate steps that you have to take, right? Number
Right.
one is first seeking help. What happened? You have to be able to make the necessary changes, right? You don't want the issue to progress faster, right? Now, the reason why I'm using this example is Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us that the ummah, we are like one body. We have to be like one body, right? And if one part of the body is sick or in pain, then it is the job of the rest to attend to that. Now, from what we can tell and what we can see, we've seen on so many occasions that we are aching all over. There's bleeding all over. There's cuts and gouges and missing parts all over. And we see the ones who are inflicting this pain upon us are happily doing it, and they are satisfied because the ones in which we think are our protectors, our shield, are the ones who allowed it to happen to us. We're suffering from this pain.
Yeah.
Now, at some point, we need to preserve life. We need to be able to stand up and be able to say, hey, enough is enough. When is that point is my question. Because we have a number of people who have been brainwashed to believe that you cannot hold the scholars accountable. You cannot hold the umara accountable. You cannot question them on any matter. So I ask here, are we to believe those people? Because there's one of two possibilities. Either this feeling that we have, this understanding that we have that we've been betrayed is completely made up. It's an illusion. That's a concept of our minds. Or the works of the evil ones are so compact that they're using our very deen against us. And they're trying to justify these things.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, I think I think Zionism is the greatest danger to the whole world, including Islam, which is, what's going on with us today. Because remember, they fund and support a lot of this division. Like, you already see the Sunni Shia thing and what's going on today. End of the day, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. If their fiqh, goes against each other, it doesn't mean they got to go kill each other in the name of it. But who funds this very, who adds the gas to the fire here? Look at them today, for example. The ones who are actually standing up against the Zionists, their own Arab leader, Muslim so-called nations, are all against them. They want to jump on them and call them kuffar and put their hands with the Zionist entity. So you tell me, is this the way how Muslim Arab should be? Shouldn't they stand right?
It should not be how any Muslim should act. So
Yeah.
therefore, then we have to be able to come to the conclusion that these aren't Muslims.
No, they're.
They're wearing the clothes, they have the beards, they have the words, they're populating the masajids, but clearly they do not exhibit the traits of the Muslims.
Yes. But once again, but the root of this problem, who do you think the root of it is?
The Munafiqeen. I mean, we can go back and say the Zionists and the kuffar, Iblis and his durriya. We can say that, but the fact of the matter is that these entities, these groups, would not have been able to succeed if it hadn't been for the so-called scholars and the so-called umara.
Yes.
Because there has to be somebody who opens the back door.
Right. So, I mean, Saudi being first and foremost, Saudi Arabia and Egypt and all of these big Umara, so-called leaders, and their scholars within, they should all be put on the spot.
100%.
Yeah.
Right? The muftis, the ulama, those who sided with them, those who instated them and who legitimized them, all of them need to be held accountable. Right? So who is going to hold them accountable is the question.
Well, who's defending them?
They're defending each other.
What about the Zionists and the Western, the Western power?
They're helping one another. Just like as Allah says in the Quran, the Munaafiqeen awliya ba'dhum awliya.
Right. So are they also part of the problem?
Absolutely. But our biggest problem right now, because put it in, I assume you were raised in the West, just like me, right? Yes. And in the West, we know of a concept called a bully, right? Now, oftentimes, in order for the bully to do what he does, there's a reason why, right? One of them being the fact that this bully has his own problems. Sure, no problem. I mean, he's got some house problem, but who doesn't? Everyone has some issues. But the fact that they're able to convince themselves that the only way for them to feel satisfied is for others to feel worse, right? Yes. So we know there's only one way to solve that matter of a bully. Words doesn't stop the bullies. You can't beg them to stop. There's no reasoning, because their mentality, where they're standing at, there is no logic of reasoning. Only their pain, their suffering, them is the only thing that matters to them. So such a people, the only way for you to be able to hear them or get them to hear you is to show them something bigger than them.
Which is the Quran.
It should be the Quran in this case.
Right. So if we, for example, bring up Surah Al-Jathiyah, Ayah 6, أَفَبِأَيِّ حَدِيثٍ بَعْدَ اللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ يُؤْمِنُونَ. After, which hadith after Allah and His ayat will they believe in? And, we use the Quran to debunk all of their claims. Because at the end of the day, the Quran is our common ground as all Muslimin.
It should be.
If the Quran can supersede all of their claims, then the Quran will bring us together. But if we abandon the Quran, like, in the Quran itself, it makes a testament that, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the Yawm al-Qiyamah is going to say, Ya Rabbi, inna qawmi takhadu hadha al-Qur'ana mahjuran. My own people took this Quran behind their backs. They threw it. So we have a solution within the problem here. That if we can come back to the Quran by the permission of Allah, with a pure intention and bring the true Quranic principles back, because the Quran is preserved by Allah, but the people have been, misguided by the permission of Allah because of their intention. How about if a new group arises amongst the Muslimin, purely and sincerely Muslimin Hanifan, following what Allah has revealed, inshallah, with evidence-based knowledge from the Quran, not making up stuff, and provides this concrete evidence? Perhaps this will put all of those munafiqeen on the spot, and the Quran will be the protector, and the Quran will be the exposer, and the Quran will be the victory.
100%, and it is. Allah made it already evident for us. But the issue that we have here is people who are blind from it. Like the brother here who's saying, he said, who's this guy? That's absurd claim that the scholars betrayed Islam. If you cannot understand what happened and what these scholars did, whose fault is it? Because at the end, as individuals, we are held accountable for ourselves. Correct? On Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask each and every one of us the same questions. We're all held accountable in the same manner. No one is in a position to say, I am closer to you, I'm closer to the Quran than you are. No, we have equal in the size of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to be able to know who the Munaafiqeen are. What are their traits? What do they do? Why do they do what they do? Have they been compromised? Because clearly we can see they betrayed us because they have been compromised. We've seen them give fatwas while telling us to leave the kuffar alone. Yet they give the fatwas to the kuffar to allow them to run around amongst us. Right? We have so many evidences. The only question is, do you have the guts to be able to come up and see these evidences? Or do you blindly follow?
Right. Like, what would be an example of the main kuffar who they let out on us with the fatwas?
There's a number of them. We can go back on a number of occasions, but let's make something very clear first. Isn't it the responsibility of the ummah who say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, who say that we love Allah and His Rasul and nahnu al-Muslimin? Isn't it aren't we responsible to say we need to be able to judge and rule ourselves according to what Allah has sent us?
Yes.
That's stage number one. In order for us to be Muslimin, mu'mineen, we need to live in a darul mu'mineen, in the place of the mu'mineen. And that is in a state in which the law of Allah reigns supreme, that we use it to judge between us. Do we have that?
But by that logic, brother, what about Yusuf? We have a lesson in Surah Yusuf from him himself.
Okay, so what was the lesson?
He was amongst the king of his time, who wasn't a Muslim.
Which part?
He compromised.
At which time? Because if we take the story of Yusuf alayhi salam as an example, prime example, by the time that he went to the land of the kuffar, that he was taken there as a slave, what age was he? He was no more than 7 years old.
Yeah, I mean, that's not exclusively discussed about his age, but we know he was young. Yes.
He was young, no more than 7. He was very young. Okay. He was then raised by the rahmah of Allah in the household of one of the Aziz, one of the guys who hold a high rank in that land.
Sure.
Okay? He was raised in that household. Did Yusuf alayhi salam compromise in his deed? No. He had to first grow up.
Correct.
And yet, what are the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed Yusuf alayhi salam? Different. In fact, there's 2 nabis that we can think of. Isa alayhi salam and Yusuf alayhi salam. These 2 nabis were given the hikmah long before they became prophets. Right? Long before they became prophets, Allah has given them the hikmah, the ilm, to be able to know right from wrong.
Right.
Because we know on numbers of occasions when Yusuf alayhi salam was, when his mother, his foster mother, wanted to commit the fahsha with him, what stopped him? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ilm of Allah. He said, I cannot betray my Rabb. Right? When Yusuf...
I'm sorry, I was going to say, but, for the mainstream story that we have today about Surah Yusuf, I have a lot of doubts about that specific event taking place in the sexual matter. I do.
Why do you have doubts in that?
Well, number one, if in Surah Yusuf, if we go to, I believe, Ayah 106, it tells you that this is from Amba al-Ghaib. Whatever is being told to you is from news of the unseen. And this story is the best of stories. This exact moment where she locked the doors, Muhammad bi, why did we translate it in a sexual way?
What do you mean translate it in a sexual way?
Why has it been interpreted today, the story we have? Why did the Mufassirin take this surah and turn it sexually like this? That she wanted to get at him in a sexual way. With what claim or what evidence can we have for that?
Well, the very Quran itself. I mean, when...
It doesn't say that though.
No. Hold up 1 second. What was the thing that Allah has given Yusuf that was apparent to everyone, Muslim or not Muslim?
Daddy, amigo.
That he was very handsome. Like his handsome, the way he was far superior than anybody else on earth. As if they gave similitude to say he's not even a bashar, he's like a malakun kareem. That's how they saw him.
You took it physically.
Well, no, you have to be able to understand. I mean, let's get a little bit very, deep into this. The people of Misr, the aristocrats, what are they known for? There are people who seek beautiful things, good things. Hence why they've constantly been beautifying themselves. And even now we see that. The aristocrats are always after beauty. Beauty is one of their standards of elites. Have money, have beauty. We know the lengths that they go for this, and age. Okay. They were no different than us. The aristocrats has always been that. Okay. Now Yusuf alayhi salam happens to be the most good-looking person on the face of this earth, to the extent that these women, when they saw him beautiful in good-looking clothes, bro, they cut their own hands. They lost their minds. They were in trends. What did the lady do when she was accused of trying to lay with her foster son? She gathered the aristocrat ladies together and she gave them all fruits and knives. Then at the right moment, she told Yusuf, come. Why was she doing that? She wanted to see their reaction. So when Yusuf alayhi salam walked between them across, like they're all sitting on the sides. I mean, you can imagine how the ballroom is. As he's walking in, they're mesmerized by his good looks, to the extent they cut their own fingers off and they were not even feeling the pain. Like, fathom that for a moment. How much of a trance do you have to be in that you cutting off your own limbs and you don't feel it? We know how pain works in our body. Pain is one of the stuff that no matter what, if you're like looking at somebody else and somebody hits you, that pain would automatically, make you turn. These women were in so much of a trance because of his beauty that they could not even feel the pain. And they only saw it after he left. And she said to them, look at your hands. You're blaming me for what I've done. And look at you, just seeing him one time, one day, you've already cut your fingers. And what did they say? We have no blame upon you. That you're justified in what you did. So it was all based on that matter. And this is why they all wanted him. And that's why this ayah, فَهَمَّ بِهَا, it's associated to what she was in a trance. It's not something she could prevent.
You don't think it could be possible that she was attacking him instead of coming at him that way?
We know women, brother. We know women. Even now.
I mean, see, that's what I'm trying to say, though.
Even now, we know women. Even now. Just 1 second, my brother. Even now, women. Even men and women both. But moreover, women. When they see a good-looking man, for those who have no iman, For those who have no haya, because technically iman comes with haya. For those who do not have that, when that stage happens, they're known to take that instinct. That instinct takes over. It's a matter of human perspective. It's a matter of human, mind, the way it works. This is why we live in a world today where sex has become so common. Where if you're a good-looking person today, you will have millions of people throwing themselves at you, whether a man or a woman. That's just the way people are. And with the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, we're given the extreme example of what a righteous man should do in that pinnacle. In fact, this is so much so that one of the shades of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Yawm al-Qiyamah is what? Is a man who a woman of status, of power, of beauty called him for zina and he rejected for the sake of Allah. It's so major that it earns itself a stage under the throne of Allah for those who are going to be protected from the trials of Yawm al-Qiyamah. So it's a matter that did happen. However, the way that sometimes people understand it, when they say that Yusuf alayhi salam had the intention, وَهَمَّ بِهَا, like that, they say that he had the desires to want to go to her and she wanted him and etc. And somehow that's the wrong interpretation, right? He had no desires to want her whatsoever. Simply because he was a man who knew gratitude. He was a man of haya. He was a man of loyalty. He was a man of uprightness. He could not betray the ones who were good to him. That's what he said. I cannot betray my Rabb. And who is he referring to as Rabb? It's both. The one who raised him, the man of the house, as well as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored him. And this is also the reason why Yusuf alayhi salam says what? In fact, one of the lessons we learn from him is what? Inna nafsi la ammaratan bisu illa ma rahima rabbi. Indeed, the nafs is the one that orders people to do bad things, except for those who Allah has had mercy upon them. We learn that lesson from him. So there should not be any doubts in the matter of Yusuf alayhi salam, because in it, it shows so many things that would be what's the right word here? Unimaginable. Him coming from a slave, being a slave, then becoming the king. That itself is ranks upon ranks. Him, saving all of Misr, not only Misr, but the entire world in that aspect from famine because of the ilm Allah has given him. Him having this test that Allah has given him, that he was put into prison wrongfully for so many years, but yet still able to forgive. Him being betrayed by his own siblings and yet still forgiving them and still asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive them. In fact, the only reason why his siblings have an opportunity to enter Jannah is because he forgave them. That's why it's called a beautiful story. Because a man who has suffered at the hands of those closest to him on a number of occasions, yet Allah has given him ranks upon ranks, and in that position, instead of taking revenge, he chooses to forgive. That's the whole lesson that we learn from Yusuf alayhi salam.
Yes, brother. I agree with most of what you said, but getting back to when I was telling you about the doubts about the sexual scene. I'm not just making this from my opinion. There are a lot of scholars who actually analyze the Quran, the language of the Quran when it's speaking. Like وَقَطَّعُ أَيْدِيهِمْ, that specific part. You took it literal, as in they literally cut their fingers or hands off. But were they planning against Yusuf? Because the Quran tells you that this is the best of stories. It's from Anba al-Ghaib. Anba al-Ghaib means this has never been told before. There's details in Surah Yusuf that you shouldn't be finding in the Bible. A lot of the stuff that we're mainstreaming today is found in the Bible. About him going after her and about the woman cutting their fingers off. It seems similar, but there's something different. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not given us that same story. There's so much more to Surah Yusuf.
And tell me this version that we've never heard of before. Tell us.
Sure. Can I send you a link?
Sure.
and you look into the ayat and evidences and the linguistic beauty of the Quran and the true story of Yusuf, that'll make you
Sure.
rethink
Send it, but I
your
won't be
whole
able to
traditional
see.
mindset.
I won't be able to see it while I'm on the live though.
What I will do, I'll send it to you directly too, because I want you to look at it, inshallah, and we'll have a discussion in here.
on another. It's gonna be another day then, because if
Yeah,
I.
another day, it's fine. I'll send it to
Okay.
you
All
because
right.
I
Okay.
can't just go through it like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. No problem. Absolutely.
Yeah, brother. I'll get that to you right now.
Inshallah. Inshallah. But going back to our main topic of the scholars, this is exactly what we were talking about. Wa alaikum salam, sister. How are you doing, Sittin? How are you doing? So this is exactly what the topic is about. This, the betrayal of the scholars, the betrayal of the ummah, the major thing. In fact, I even wrote one of the books that I updated and I wrote, put on link in my bio, is about the betrayal, evidence regarding who did the betrayal, where did it happen, where it came from. Oh, this brings to. I don't know. Let me see. Let me see. Can you guys see the writing in the back? I mean, are you able to see it clearly, or is it like too zoomed in?
Brother, like, how should we deal with the scholars? Let's say, assuming we have them under our hands, how do we deal with them? How do we deal with these umara?
Hold on a second. Let me see, let me fix the back screen.
Yeah.
I'm told that. All right. Let me.
It was just working, brother.
Oh, it's just working. No, the back screen itself. I'm told that it's hard for you guys to see.
No, it looks very fine. You can see everything.
Can you see? You can see everything. Okay.
Yeah, everything shows.
Yep. All right then. Okay, you guys can see it. That's good.
Yeah, brother, I was saying, so assuming, okay, we have these umara and these scholars under our control now, how do we deal with them? What's the recompense?
Well, first of all, we have to be able to bring about the structure that is going to hold them accountable. Assalamu alaikum, sister.
Alaikum salam. How
What's
are you
that
guys?
structure? Good.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. I just wanted to say hi. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
And just to let you know that I support to Emperor. I'm one so-called Quran only, reverted. I wasn't born Muslim.
MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah.
And I learned by the Quran only. So I never understood why. Actually, they follow the tradition in general. Never understood from the Quran itself. Like I know that Allah nazala ahsan hadith, that He's given us the ahsan tafsir in the Quran. So when I started to do the tadabbar, I learned it from the Quran, my friend. Like nobody told me ever, but I found many verses. I started to do occurrences of the words and started to translate. My background is Moroccan, so I had some senses in Arabic. So when I was listening to the verses in Arabic, I was like, wait a minute, tadabbar, to look behind, okay, to go around the thing. Let me try, link verses by verses. In since you all know the أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ of 482,
Yep.
then I found it again in 38:29. كتاب أنزلنا إليك مباركة ليدبروا آياته. And I was like, wait a minute, he's given us Allah subhanahu. He's given us ayat, so we look and search for it, whether it is ayatullah inside of you or outside of you in the nature, let's say, or ayatul Quran. So I was like, this is so simple. Why they made it so complicated, and why they changed everything they gave us out of a metaphor or meanings of words, and they turned it into one group, one religion for only one group. Why?
It was designed. It was designed.
Subhanallah.
And that's
Design.
something we have to be able to know. Even the Quran tells us that there is a group of supposed Muslims who aren't Muslims. The Quran actually calls them munafiqeen. And the munafiqeen are such people يَقُولُونَ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ مَا لَيْسَ فِي قُلُوبِهِم, that they say from their mouth what is not in their
Exactly.
qulubs. That the epitome of the munafiqeen are the ones who they are not even with the Muslims, they're with the kuffar. They say إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَهْزِئُونَ. Right?
Exactly.
So the goal of the munafiq is to be able to deceive us, to corrupt us, to dismantle us, to harm us from within, and to make us unable to see right from wrong. Right?
This
So,
is exactly what happened.
100%. Now, the question that I bring here is, can the scholar be a munafiq?
Of course.
Of course.
Can the
Anybody.
leader be a munafiq?
Anybody can be a munafiq.
Of
All
course,
right.
100%.
100%.
There
Now,
were Sahaba with the Prophet who were munafiq.
yeah, the munafiqin, absolutely. Now,
Allah didn't expose them by name, and He didn't even know who they were. They were so good at it that nobody knew who they were.
until Allah told him, but even then he still didn't tell the rest of the people. He wrote it in a book, but he kept it, as a private matter. But nonetheless, there were individuals who everyone saw clearly, like Abdullah ibn Ubay, for example. Abdullah ibn Ubay, Allah even sent ayats regarding him, proclaiming that he's a munafiq. That Rasulullah ﷺ was even forbidden from praying janazah upon him. Right? So there were those who Allah made it very clear who they were. And going back to those who are with Abdullah ibn Ubay, many of them cited, but yet there were many who in the beginning, like, and we know with Sirah of Rasulullah in the early stages where no one knew Abdullah ibn Ubay being a munafiq, there were many from the Ansar who viewed him as not a bad person, a good person, because they were going to make him a king. But slowly, they've begun to see what Abdullah ibn Ubay does and said and things that he uttered. It got to the point where the Ansar no longer trusted Abdullah ibn Ubay. In fact, there were times before this moment that every time Rasulullah, before he comes into the masajid to do khutbah or etc., Abdullah ibn Ubay used to give a little bit of introduction first, and to make himself look relevant. When the Sahaba figured out that Abdullah ibn Ubay isn't up to no good, they used to even prevent him from that. Tell him, you, sit down, we don't want to hear from you. Sit. Because they knew this man would say things behind Rasulullah. Like when he said that, the one who's Izzah is going to stay and the one who isn't is going to leave Medina. We have in Surah Al-Hashr, when he says, it is Abdullah ibn Ubay speaking. He says to the Yahud, what was I here? ألم تر إلى الذين نافقوا يقولون لإخوانهم الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب لئن أخرجتم لنخرجن معكم, right? ولا نطيع فيكم أحدا أبدا وإن قتلتم لننصرنكم ولئن نصروهم ليولون أدبارهم ولا I made a mistake here. أحدا أبدا وإن قتلتم لننصرنكم والله يشهد إنهم لكاذبون لئن أخرجوا لا يخرجون معهم ولئن أخرجوا لا يخرجون معهم.
Please, guys, tap the screen so you can secure.
وَلَئِنَّ صَرُوهُمْ لَيُوَلُّونَ أَدْبَارَهُمْ وَلَا يُنصَرُونَ. This is Abdullah ibn Ubay making deals with the Yahud, telling him...
It's got enough, Emperor.
Absolutely, right? There's so much into this thing. So we know the munafiqeen are there. But sadly, especially in the last 100 years now, and I focus on the last 100 years, We've let our guard down so bad that the munafiqeen are found in every masajid. In many households, you'll find munafiqeen. But the worst of them all are the ones who have weaseled their way in the scholars and the umara, right? And they betrayed us, they deceived us, they harmed us, right?
They are, and they're deceiving nations and generations, as you can see, just with the word adribuhunna of 434. How many generations of housewives
We're
have
beat
been
up because of that.
suffering from it? Yeah, just because they
had nothing to do with
interpreted this word, that this has to do. They believe in it. They believe to be a man is to beat your wife up. They
But the
do
Quran
believe
never intended
100%.
that.
They're sure of this, and they believe it is from Allah.
Astaghfirullah. You know, the Quran
Yeah,
says,
but that's how
"Darab
they
Allahu
interpret the word.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
But
why
when
we
you
have
tell
to
them
go
this,
back
they
to the Quran.
don't listen.
Yeah, exactly. The young
That's the
Salafis.
reason why we need to. Yeah,
We need the Quran to give us the definition of
that's
the
just
term.
an example.
Yeah. Like you
Yeah, the
mentioned, you know,
Quran should be given
tadabbur.
them.
You know, you mentioned something beautiful, mashallah,
Yeah.
sister, about tadabbur, where, you know, you're seeing how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're linking the ayat. But on the word daraba, you know, you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses it many times. وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا. Allah strikes for you an example.
Exactly.
Not a physical strike. They took it physically to beat the woman up. I mean,
Well, no, it was cultural came in,
I
and they
found
put
it.
culture in, and
yeah, but
laced
the Quran
culture
is
into
not
the Quran.
designed for 1400 years ago only. It's for all mankind.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Can't be.
Exactly. But they follow culture more than they follow Islam.
Yeah.
Islam is just a cover for them. But the person here is saying,
Yes.
yes, we need the ahadith, absolutely, but
I
the
don't think we
ahadith
do.
that confirm with the Quran. If there's ahadith that are designed to manipulate the people, these are wrong. For example, the number of ahadith that are used by the Salafis to justify the corruption of the scholars, what do they say? They say that Rasulullah told you to, even if you have a corrupted leader and he is harming you, you still have to follow him. This is corruptive.
And the Salafis have a lot of problems within themselves too. Like I don't take from them. They're very extreme in my
It's
opinion.
very corruptive. I mean, like, just take this example. If somebody is harming you, causing you harm, how are you to tell this person, just allow the harm? It's okay, Allah allowed it. You have to follow him. How is that possible? No. Narcissists, evil people who harm people cannot be
Exactly,
in the
my
same
friend.
place as their victims.
Exactly.
Exactly. And
This
that's
is so
what
obvious. This is it. What do they think of the definition of taghut in the Quran? What do they think of it?
they justify
Because
it,
the taghut can be a corrupted.
sister.
They justify it.
Justify it. They say things such as
Wow.
kufra duna kufr. They make up terminologies to justify the taghut. How is it possible to say that it is acceptable for a leader to take portions of the Quran and reject the rest? This is kufr. You cannot take
This is
portions of the
kufr.
Quran
Yeah.
and reject the rest. These guys will tell you, as long as the Amir didn't specifically say, I am a kafir, and he does evil, he's still the Amir, he's still a Muslim. Like, mind-boggling. His actions
Yeah, it's
do what?
mind-boggling.
Yeah. His actions do what? He sides with the kuffar. He pays the kuffar. He gives them whatever they want. He helps them in the corruption and the killing and the murder and the evil done to the Muslims. He even enforces the so-called scholars to give fatwas to tell the people, leave the Muslims in harm alone. It's a matter of the kuffar. It is not our matter.
Yep.
Subhanallah.
This is
Subhanallah, because you just answered one of my questions. You know, I was wondering, why is this happening in Palestine? Because I know that Allah is not unjust. It's hafid. You know what I mean? I was wondering, and I was like, there must be something that we did with our hands.
absolutely.
There must be some corruption, some complicity that is hidden that I don't see in the Arab world. I'm not talking about the Zio thing. I don't care about them. I care about us, the so-called Muslim Ummah, that allowed this to happen somehow. I don't know how. I don't know the whole details, but for sure
I will tell
we
you
did
of the whole
something
details.
wrong.
I will tell you. In fact, I even wrote a few books about this, which is available in the link in my bio.
Okay.
I've gathered
Okay.
the evidences and the informations. There's a free one as well, where the fatwas that they've given as pro-US fatwas, where they've allowed the Americans to reign free, to do what they wanted, right? And this matter even goes further back. I mean, the recent one that I just wrote, just even last night I completed it. We have evidences. For example, if you know when the Saud was created, you know, the Saudi Arabia they call it. Do you know how its creation came to be?
I know that England
played a role.
England is involved, right? That's
there
all
was
I know, but I don't know the details.
Okay, there is
Okay.
details involved
Play
into
the
this. Okay, let's skim through this thing. The Europeans, whether they be the French and the English and the Germans and etc., right? The kuffar from the Europeans. In fact, there's even another thing, but I won't mention that.
Yes.
Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us there's going to be a time where the kuffar are going to come and they will eat you like you eat food from a plate.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know how when we eat together, there's a group of people, you know, sitting around a plate and they're all eating together. He said the same way they will eat you in that matter. Okay? When did we see that happen? We saw that happening with the beginning of World War I, World War II, and events in between that. So, historical events. Were these wars coincident or were they engineered? Evidence states they were engineered. By who? By the Zionists. When did they start engineering it? It started right after they found the body of Fir'aun. The year after 1897, they've created the Zionist organization for the purpose of creating a Jewish homeland. So in 1897, how can they succeed when all of the Muslim world is together under the banner of the Ottoman Empire? The Hijaz, Mecca, Medina, you know, Palestine, Al-Aqsa, all of them is under the Muslim banner. How can they take it away? They came up with plans. And their plans included in infiltrating the ranks of the Muslims. Sister said Lawrence of Arabia. Lawrence of Arabia was the agent. He was a homosexual agent who was sent to Arabia. What was his job? He worked for Winston Churchill. His job was to divide the Muslims by getting the Amir of Mecca and Medina to cut ties with the Ottomans. Right? To destroy the Muslims. And he succeeded. Yes, the Amir of Mecca was he betrayed, and he was also betrayed when he figured out he was betrayed. The Amir of Medina, whose name was Abdul Aziz al-Saud, he was willfully included into the plan of betrayal. So much so, he's the one that benefited from the most.
Till this day.
Till this day.
Ahsant, yeah.
This day.
Till this day.
That's why it's called Saudi Arabia.
Exactly. Now, when they executed the plan for World War I, it was a cleverly execution. In fact, if you can recall the specifics, someone assassinated the Duke Frank of Austro-Hungary, and the blame was put on Russia. Who did the assassination? The British did. Who do they blame? The Russians, the Tsars. Well, why do they blame the Russian Tsars? Because they have the concept, kill two birds with one stone.
Ahsant.
They needed to get rid of the Ottomans, but they couldn't do it themselves. So what they did is they pissed off the Austro-Hungary, which was an empire. In order for them to go fight the Russians, they would have to cross over the Ottoman Empire. That means Ottoman Empire will be invaded. Right? Now, the Ottomans could not go to the Russians and say, hey, they're coming for you, let's help each other. Why? Because the Ottomans spent 400 years particularly harming and doing evil things to the Russians, to the Orthodox. So they did not have the face to go to them and say, hey, let's help one another. So what did the Ottomans do? They went to Germany for help. And the Germans were created and were advanced by who? The Zionist Jews. In fact, the Zionist Jews they built up Germany for the purpose of taking over the world. Then when this plan came to be, they betrayed Germany. Right? So Germany gets betrayed, the Ottomans get destroyed, and then who takes over Palestine and the Hijaz in that area? British. The British kid takes over. He sends the General Edmund Allenby to literally go over and take over the whole thing. They already conquered, Egypt before then. The Suez Canal, all of these states were taken over. And in 1919, right? In 1919, there was a mandate written by, it's called the Balfour Declaration. They wrote it in 1919, where the moment they took over the Hijaz and they took over Palestine, they said, we need to make a mandate awarding this land to the Jews in 1919. But then how do they get the Jews to Palestine? They needed another plan, and that was World War II. They created World War II. Okay. Now, what happened in Arabia in between the creation of the World War II and the downfall of the Ottoman Empire? Because along with the downfall of the Ottoman Empire, in 1924, May of 1924, we lost the Khalifa. In fact, the British called the Sultan Abdul Hamid and told him, hey, pack your bags, get out. I don't want to hear this Khalifa things anymore. And Abdul Hamid ran away. They say he was exiled, but he ran away to Switzerland. That's what they often do, these guys. Whenever they go somewhere, where do they go for help? The same kuffar. Right? When that happened, you have the Saud, Abdul Aziz al-Saud, between 1929 up until 1932, he finalized his plan to conquer the Hijaz and Najd, and he murdered many Muslims, even at the Kaaba in 1934, just to solidify his authority. Right? And then 1934, you have the birth of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Since then, who's been protecting them? The same people, the same group. Now, here's the interesting thing that I found. By the time that this event are happening in 1924, you have scholars who are given fatwas, right? Like here it says the fatwas that were given, Ibn Saud's government was supported by the Wahhabi scholars, sought to establish religious legitimacy within Saudi Arabia. The scholars issued fatwa affirming Ibn Saud's leadership and rejecting any claims to the Khalifa outside of the domain of the Saudi rule. These fatwas also laid the foundation for the Saudi state, claiming to religious legitimacy, particularly to the role of the monarch as the custodians of the two holy masjid, the Haramain. So we know the scholars. Who were these scholars that were a part of it? You have Sheikh Muhammad bin Ibrahim al-Ash, and then you have Sheikh Abdul Aziz bin Baz, you have Salih al-Fawzan, you have Abdullah ibn al-Hamid, you have Muhammad al-Muqabil, you have Muhammad Abdurrahman al-Saud al-Azimi. You have a number of these guys. You have the Al-Azhar University, who's also a part of it. And later on, the creation of the University of Medina. These guys were all a part of legitimizing Abdul Aziz al-Saud and the Saudi Arabia as the legitimate leaders.
Wow.
They disregarded the betrayal of the Ummah. They disregarded the betrayal and the fact that everything was orchestrated by the British, the Kuffar. They said, forget it, we don't care, we're going to create our state and we're going to allow Saud to be our king.
Beautiful history lesson. Beautiful.
And Saud, their family, the Arabs,
They're
or they were
Arabs from
brought from some other
Najd.
tribe. Or,
Well, they're from Najd. They're from a place
okay,
called the
because
Najd.
I heard.
Assalamu alaikum. Can I say something?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Najmi,
I
okay.
did my master's
Alaikum
thesis
salam,
on
because
race.
I heard there were some Jews.
There are some Jews
Okay,
linked to
sure.
them, absolutely. There's always been Jews linked to them. But sister, go ahead. What are we going
Yeah,
to
there
say?
was.
So the reason why I came up, I did my master's thesis in history. I went to the School of Oriental and African History, SOAS. It's a very famous university here in London. This specific university was created to colonize the world. And I'll tell you this. So part of my master's research, I went to the British Library. It's got the biggest archive in the world for documents, right? So I was given access as a master's student. So I went to the Arabian section and I found documents dated in the turn of the century. We're talking 1901, 1902, all the way up to 1925, after the World War II. Actually, I went back all the way to 1856 to 1925.
Wonderful.
The British, right, alongside their counterparts, the French and the Belgian and the Dutch. Americans less so, because Americans entered the picture around 1930, after the World War II.
Because
So
Henry
part of
Ford was
my
against
research, what I wanted to find is basically the consolidation of power of the British state within Arabia. And what I found is the British studied Islam for decades. I'm telling you. They had scholars, they had British scholars
Wow.
that mastered Arabic,
Yes.
they mastered Hadith,
Yes.
they mastered philosophy, they mastered, I'm telling you, they had British colonial officers that studied Arabic.
Yes.
Guys, they sent these people to the individual tribes in Hijaz, right? So Lawrence of Arabia,
Wow.
I think everyone knows Lawrence of Arabia.
Absolutely. Everybody should know
Lawrence,
Arabia.
Lawrence,
He's
of,
very-
Lawrence of Arabia was Quran Hafid. He knew the Quran off head. He studied the Quran, he studied the Hadith, he studied Arabics, he studied the tribal differences. Okay, the tribal fighting, the infighting of different subclans. So this is the issue that people don't understand. The British not only colonized Arabia, they colonized it through knowledge, strategy. And when I opened those archives, I actually saw correspondence of British colonial officers speaking about what do we do with these subsects of tribes. I think before the Saudis, the Al Saud tribe, which is a tribe, they were Bedouins. They were illiterate Bedouins. They were not even known to be educated. And I think the ruling tribe in Hijaz were the Rashidas, I think. Rashidas.
Right, and you had some of the Hashemites over
And the Hashemites. So the colonial officers would write letters to the British officers here stationed in London and say, there's a form of Islam. It's called Salafism. This is papers in 1899, 1902, where they talk about Ibn Wahhab. So this type of Islam will help us in the long run, in the sense that this type of Islam depoliticizes the Muslims. And I'll give you an example. There was a particular letter I found of a colonial officer that was stationed in, there's a specific village near Medina. He went there and he was working with the local tribe there. And he noticed the people that were fighting against the Wahhabi ideology were the militant Muslims.
Yes.
They were the spiritually militant. They were really hard to subdue. So the British knew this, and you know what, my heart, I started to cry, because you know why I cried? I took this and I spoke to my dad about it, and he said this is the reason why they didn't want Muslims to be Sufi, because they needed to stamp out this type of form of Islam, which makes you a militant, which makes you less obedient to the state. Think about it. When you're less obedient to the state, and you're fundamentally an individual person, you don't bow down to an individual, you don't bow down to a state, you don't bow down to a corporation. You only bow down to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That type of person is prime for jihad.
100%.
So think
How
about
the
it.
Shia? The Shia can claim the same thing.
No, but this is the thing. The Shia as well are a political tool, because the British also infiltrated Iran.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, look
They
at Lebanon.
infiltrated.
Yeah.
Look at
Yeah.
What people don't understand is what the British did.
Abraham, those men.
Listen, the British invented psychology. Yeah, they invented they invented the most powerful form of propaganda, which is to infiltrate a group of people, learn their way, be part of them, appear to be with them, and
Dress
then
like them,
destroy them
talk
from
like them,
within.
exactly. Even to the extent of marrying from them and having kids with them.
Exactly. Lawrence of Arabia, like he was
yeah.
deep into these
Oh, yeah.
tribes. They offered him wives. He was part. And the funny thing is, with us Muslims, we are taught fundamentally to treat one another kindly, even the non-believer.
Yeah.
So they played on our weakness. They played on the fact that we are good people,
Exactly.
and we're not as savage as them. We're not as cunning as them, right? So you always ask yourself these questions: why were these people able to colonize the world, and not only that, water down our religion, make us into some subservient, obedient, passive people who don't fight against injustice, who don't even have the confidence to say no more? So when you study this, and it made me feel really disgusting to be part of that
It's
institution,
painful. It's really painful.
right?
And you always
So
wonder how these supposed scholars who knew the Quran, because we're just entry level, for them to be able to be deceived this
see, but
manner.
this is the problem when people in the comment section, it's not true. The archives are open. If you're a student, right, or you might be interested, you're a scholarly person, just get a membership in the British Library. Go to there's about 25 million archives. And these are the stuff they've chosen to make public. Imagine the stuff that they've got under secrecy.
Wow.
Right? Go to the library, the British Library. It's open for you. Go into the sections, open up these correspondence, these archived documents of colonial time Britain when they were colonizing the world. It's there for you. How the hell are they? Listen, how are they writing about Salafism in 1902? And Ibn Wahhab? And how are they saying
This is
Ibn
crazy.
Wahhab is working for
I'm
us?
taking notes.
They're taking notes.
19
Come on.
1902.
Yeah, I found
You got
correspondence.
archives. This is crazy about Salafism.
Yeah, they spoke
Whoa,
about
this
no,
is
they
some
said that
information.
this form of Islam. So they knew that within the Islam, right, you got the four madahibs, which is Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and then within the four madahibs, there's different branches. So you got the Athari, which is the creed, school of creeds, Athari, what you call it, Ashari, and then you got the Hanbali. Yeah, exactly. Imagine that these people, right, really studied. They really studied our religion. So as Muslims, we have to reflect. Why? Why would they take such a deep interest in the divisions?
They're against the Muslims and divide them.
Because they understand the Salafis, a subsect of Salafis, genuinely believe that a lot of the Muslims are deviant, correct?
Yep.
So when you go to these group of people who believe most Muslims are deviant, are they more likely to work with you if you're the kuffar?
They're going to fight the Muslims and stand with the kuffar.
There we go. So the British figured out, so this is a light bulb moment. So we have an ideology that we could use that will support us to destabilize Muslims. But the thing is, when you talk to a person who subscribes to Salafiyah, this form, not all of Salafiyah, this specific form of Salafiyah, they're blind to it. They tell you, no, it's not possible. We are the guided ones. We're the ones who are upon the haqq.
We follow the Salaf.
You get it? Do you see that type of rhetoric?
I do.
So when you show them this evidence, look, the kuffar have literally convinced you to fight the ummah. Like, listen to me. This Sufi right there is your fellow Muslim, but you rather partner with a kuffar because you think the Sufi is deviant.
And that's the biggest thing, right? What you mentioned right there is the thing we have. To the Salafis, the biggest enemy is another Muslim, not the Zionists, not the Yehud, not the enemies of Allah, not Iblis.
So
Only other Muslims is their biggest enemies.
Because they have this philosophy. They have this philosophy that in order to save the ummah, we need to stamp out the deviants within us, right? The deviants. Who are the deviants?
100%.
Who are the deviants within us? Majority of the ummah. Trust me, because these people genuinely believe only a minority are upon the guidance. Not all Salafis, because I differentiate between them. There's a subsect who genuinely believe majority are upon bid'ah.
Those are the ones who believe, I shouldn't be calling anyone anything. They worry about themselves most of the time. They worry about individual self.
Salaam
But there are
alaikum.
some Salafis that don't subscribe to
Sister,
the
yeah, we
Hadith.
shouldn't call them Salafis, call them Madkhalis.
No, because I actually
Yeah,
have
because sister,
conversations
I
with.
follow Salaf Saleh, you know, we do it. So don't call them Salafis.
No, but no. The reason why I'm very specific with the word Salafi is because they have taken, they have hijacked that
It's
terminology.
a hizb from Saudi and many of them in UK.
No, but Amin, brother, you have to understand. The regular Muslims calls themselves a Sunni, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. That's it. You shouldn't be calling yourself a Salafi or that. But the reason why I use this specific name is these people are mentioned in government documents. Like you guys you're right. They're mentioned in CIA documents. They're mentioned in MI5 documents. They're mentioned in so many Secret
I
Service
know,
documents.
but sister,
And
if you go to Morocco and you say Salafi, they're thinking jihadi. They're thinking about a real mujahid. They don't think about, you know. But if you go to
No,
UK,
I'm
say
talking
Salafi,
predominantly in the
you say that
West.
it's one that's working with the government. It's different. Very
No, in the
different.
West is different.
Nonetheless,
This is analyzing how early on they started using the Salafi way and the Salafi mindset.
Because
This
think
is
about it.
early
Look,
1902.
if you study, look, I know I will be, because I get attacked for this, and I get called you're a deviant, you're not part of this. It's just, I hate it because look at it, look, just strip it down to its core. The Salafi mindset, the Madkhali mindset, to be specific, they strip you all sense.
That's of responsibility.
Oh my God,
They
you
strip you of
muted.
all
You
sense.
muted.
Yeah.
You got muted. April, sister April.
Yeah, no. What I'm
I'm
saying
gonna
is,
go down, but I needed to ask you some more questions. You're very relevant. Thank you, Emperor.
No worries,
And
sister.
I've been listening to you from down because my connection is
all
really
this
bad. But
knowledge is
please,
available.
April,
Google.
continue, please.
Okay, sister.
No, what I'm saying is, what I've noticed about a lot of Salafi, I'm not calling that the
Salam
religious
alaikum.
folk. I'm saying the mindset, the way they think, the way their frame of mind is. What that ideology has done is stripped your sense of autonomy, your sense of critical thinking, your sense of reflection and analysis. Because think about it, when you're being asked to do something, it is in our fitrah to question it. Why? What's the purpose? It's our fitrah. We think about it. Like as a human being, yeah, people might not have this school, but I do it. I look at it and I'm thinking maybe that's why Salafis hasn't been able to capture my mind, because I always ask questions like, where does this come from? And they hate that, right?
They don't
So
ask
what
those
it does,
questions.
exactly.
ask
So it
questions. They follow.
depoliticizes. Look, it strips politics from religion. It separates.
That's
You know
what
how
Abdul
liberals.
Wahab did. That's what
Exactly.
Abdul Wahab did.
Yeah.
And they call him a
Yeah.
mujaddid for that. They call him a
So
mujaddid for
when
that.
so and that's a liberal
Can I
stance.
say
So,
one
so
thing?
that's what the secular world has done. You know, when the Renaissance happened and the Europeans were fighting amongst each other, they did a job. They did a good job by separating state from religion. And Salafis, what they've done is they've taken the religion out of the state and put it into the home. So what does that happen? It depoliticizes you. You don't think politics matters anymore. You don't think
Exactly.
world affairs matters anymore. So it makes it so simple. And it's basically, this individual is ripe for propaganda. Right?
100%.
And that's what I've
100%.
seen. And unfortunately, a lot of people in my community have fallen to this trap.
It was by
I
design.
don't understand.
It was
I
by
don't
design.
understand people calling themselves Salafi and you're watching kids getting blown up and you're sitting there and say, I follow Salaf Saleh.
No, but I mean, this is the thing. They have
They
stripped.
lost
They have stripped.
hands and legs to حرر for Muslimin. يعني
Saudi is exactly that now. The Saudi
Look.
army. That's exactly the Saudi right now. The
They
Saudi
say
are willing
you
to
cannot
party
even
around.
express. Listen, even the outwardly expression of empathy is wrong. Your
Yes.
outwardly expression of empathy.
That's what the Mufti
How?
said.
How?
That's what the Mufti said.
What was the shayukh? There was a specific shayukh. Yeah, sheikh. I can't remember his name. Yeah, so he tweeted just a dua for the Palestinians. He got imprisoned. La hawla wa la quwwata. He got imprisoned.
Because
And
it goes
I
against
bet
their
you right
mindset.
now the Salafis are going to defend that. They're going to defend that
Oh,
in the
like there's one
comments.
person over here saying she's a liar. She is not lying.
Okay,
She's
all right,
following
bring
the
his name.
truth.
There's a scholar in Saudi. His son is actually seeked asylum in the UK. There's a scholar in Saudi. I'll bring his name. He did a
Muhammad.
tweet back in something Salman
They're going
Auda,
to
something like
execute him. I
that.
remember. Is it Muhammad al-Ghamidi? Was it Muhammad? No, it's not
Yeah,
al-Ghamidi.
he's waiting for execution. He's going to be executed soon.
Brother, but something interesting is why is it only the Shia are standing with the Palestinian cause? Helping
And the
Sunnis?
Shia themselves, they've got nefarious reasons, but they are the ones.
I mean, be fair in your judgment, though. I mean, let's be honest.
I will be fair.
You got all of South Lebanon. Like, look at South Lebanon. all of
Lebanon
these
right now
young,
is in the middle of the
beautiful
problem.
souls that
what,
left
what
behind
I,
their children.
brother, what I think is
On
you
the
have
faith of
seen
the
the map.
Zionists, I don't
Brother,
see any Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah fighting. Except
I can tell you why. You know the greater Israel. Have you seen the map?
I've
Yes.
seen it.
Iran know they are next.
Yes.
So they
I think Iran is more of a
they-
political
I mean,
thing.
Iran's
yeah,
not
they
the
know they are
Shia.
next.
Ayatollahs have always been with them.
Lebanon,
Iran is not the Shia. It's its own thing. Shia is a.
Let's differentiate one thing, okay? Let's differentiate one thing.
Let's differentiate Iran from
The
Shia.
leaders of these countries and their Mala'ul Qawm and the people aren't always the same. We know
Yeah,
from the leaders, the Ayatollahs, the Saud, all of them are
they don't represent the people.
they represent the people.
One
and
thing
they
I admire
already
about the
sided
Shia-
with the Kuffar. They're already
One
with
thing I
them.
admire about the Shia is they have an unwavering strength in the face of injustice against the Muslims.
No. But let's be fair and
This is a
balanced.
matter of
The
a Muslim
Shia
and a
I mean,
themselves,
as much as we talk from today to tomorrow, they're the
have
only ones who fought.
committed. Listen, the Shia themselves, you have to look at it from a geopolitical lens. The Shia themselves have committed atrocities in Iraq. Look at what they've done, their mercenaries and their what they've done in Iraq. So
Did
let's
you
be
see
a
what
little bit
Saddam has done
balanced.
to them? What are you talking about?
No, listen. When it comes to Shia and Sunni, it's far more complex. But for me, my perspective, Iran is they're protecting themselves for nationalism. They don't want Israel to take their land, and I don't blame them.
yeah, the next in the line.
Good
For
for
the
them.
most part, the Ayatollahs, the most part, they've been willing to work with the Americans. I mean, we've seen a number of occasions when when they killed the general, Ismail or something like that. What do? The Ayatollahs, they would call the Americans, say, "Hey, we need to retaliate because the people need it, but move away from the place, and we'll make it look like we got our justice."
Yeah, Iran is working with the West.
Yeah,
in a different way.
calls. They tell them they've been working together. The people are separate. The people want Islam. So hence why, instead of using terminologies like Shia and etc.,
Use Iran, don't use Shia.
no, we need to go back to basic. Muslims and
Iran
Munaafiq.
is not Shia though. That's what I'm trying to say. Shia is way before Iran. Shia is right after the death of the Prophet Muhammad.
Yes,
They follow
yes.
Ali bin Abi Talib. I mean, it's he's a great man. Ali bin Abi
The
Talib.
Shia
Why
today
don't
is
we
not
do
the
this?
Shia of Ali.
Why don't we do this?
Yeah,
We'll have two labels: a
follow that.
Muslim and a
Fought
Munaafiq.
against the first deviant Muawiyah. We all seen it. When he
Didn't
Listen,
follow
he took the Quran and he put it on a spear.
Brothers. There's only two justifiable terminologies: a Muslim and a Munaafiq. Nothing else matters. Everything else is a part of the political agenda. Sunni, Shia, etc., they get you nowhere. The foundation will always go back to the one who's loyal to Allah and the one who has betrayed
We
Allah.
have to distinguish between the Munafiqeen and the Mu'mineen. Ali bin Abi Talib is a Mu'min. Anybody goes against it is a Munafiq. We can agree on that.
We can agree on
Who
that.
goes against Ali? What are you talking about?
Muawiyah is a Munafiq.
Okay. I
I mean,
thought,
with all my heart, I
there's,
hope you say it, guys. He
Yeah, but-
killed so many Sahaba.
Let's not open that door. Listen, brother. Stinger. Let's not open that door.
yeah, because that's a
Why,
messy,
though?
messy,
Why?
messy.
Why are
We
we
are
so
strictly
uncomfortable
sticking-
talking about history? Why?
Because
wanna
that's
stick
going to
to
take us
this.
out of the topic. That's going to take us out of the topic.
That's all you talk about Shia. When you don't learn Fatiha when you're young, you learn to hate Sahaba.
Guys,
No,
guys,
no,
guys,
that's the problem here. That's the
Listen,
I mean,
problem.
this is when the can is open, you can't really
That's the same
return
issue
back
that they
to
want.
normal.
It's
Brothers.
okay to talk about history.
And you know,
listen.
can I say something? It serves the interest of the West for Shias and Sunni to fight. By the way, you know that.
Why do we have to
By
fight?
design.
Why do we
It's
have
by
to fight?
design.
It's by design. They
Why do
want
we have
us
to
to
fight?
be in fighting because it serves their purpose
Exactly.
to destabilize Muslims.
100%. So let's go back to the matter. The matter is the scholars betrayed us, and there's Muslims and Munafiq. That's it. No other terminology should be used.
For our
Because
Shia,
any who betray the Muslims is a
No,
Munafiq.
no, we're talking about individual people like the
You
scholars,
want
the
to go,
Shia.
go talk with Shia Sunnah, go to another life.
no.
We don't talk about
All I'm trying to say is when you say it's either Muslim or Kafir
Or Munafiq.
or Munafiq, I'm sorry. But
Yes.
Munafiq essentially is just right under Kafir, right? Aren't they the same thing?
Technically,
No, they're a
Munafiq
step
a
above
kafir or
this. You know,
Yeah, they're
worse
worse.
than the kafir.
it's a class
So
of
they're
its own.
worse than a Kafir.
Yes,
But when you
because
got- when
they
you got
hide
90%
their true intention.
majority Muslims calling Shia Munafiq or Kafir.
No,
What does that do?
no, we didn't. No,
We have to talk about this. It's a big
No,
issue.
Who called
the-
Shia as
The
Munafiq?
topic for right now, we don't want to undermine
Look
the
around the world
topic.
today.
The topic right now is the fact that the scholars, the Munafiqeen scholars, have been used to corrupt the deen. That's what we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Let's not fall for the tricks, because everything else is a trick. Whether you say, Salafi, Shia, this, that, this is just the brainwashing tactics that allows us to further see each other as a problem. The bigger enemy, as the sister already told us, is we have been deceived going all the way back to 1901. If you go back to the early 1900s, there was no such problems as the Shia Sunni problem. It never
There was
existed.
problems, but at least the
Been going on right
Muslims
after
had
the death of
Not on the level that it is today. It
Yeah.
was not a political thing. They were still all under the same banner.
And just disclaimer, I don't believe in Stringer's position. I'm a Sunni. I don't believe Muawiyah is a Munaafiq. This app is such a strange place. You get attacked and you get called the kuffar just for simply sitting on a chat and,
If
you
you
know,
fight the
Stringer, I don't
Khalifa
know
of
what
your
your
time, what are
beliefs
you?
are, but I just want to make it clear. I'm a Sunni. I don't say anything bad
As a Sunni,
against
if you fight the
Sahaba.
Khalifa of your time, what are you?
But Stringer, you can agree to disagree.
you
That's
fight
your
Ali ibn Abi
position, and
Talib?
my position is different.
You know, we're not
The
getting
truth
into
is,
historical
look,
guys.
Look,
We're not
a
getting into the
Muslim, a
historical.
mu'min will
Let us
never
see
hate
how.
Ali, and a munafiq will never love him.
Listen. Stinger,
Ali
guys.
divides haqq and batil. You all know that.
Ikhwan. We're not talking about the
Why are you so
Sahaba.
eager to make this
Alhamdulillah.
discussion about Shia and Sunni? Like,
That's
come
what
on.
they talk
I'm
about.
just saying, love of Ali is a
Guys,
beautiful thing.
listen.
Yeah, but come on, like the
Have
topic.
respect
Can't
for
love
the
Ali and love
topic of
his
the
enemy.
day.
All I'm saying is pick a side. Don't be munafiq.
No.
Is-
This is not
is
even a
Ali-
topic for today. It's not even
Stinger is
a
Ali
topic.
better than the
You're
Munafiq?
going off course.
Who would
Yes.
Ali be with today? Would Ali be with the Saudi?
Okay, that's enough.
The topic for today is not about Ali, it's not about Muawiyah, it's not about that part of history. We're talking exclusively in the last 100 years. We're talking exactly only about that. Stick to this point. We're talking about the issue that we have now. The scholars, the Saudiya, the blindsided, the fact that they worked with the Kuffar. That is what we're going to talk about. Nothing else.
But they subscribe to the hatred of Ali.
We're not meant
Oh
to,
my
it's not even a
goodness.
topic regarding
Let's
Ali.
just, but I'm just saying, but do they or no? Do those people in the last
Forget
100 years,
about
do they
that.
subscribe to it?
Are
I'm
you
just
here
asking
just
you.
to like cause like
Yeah.
No. I'm here to teach you to think.
Stinger. We're sticking to this topic. We're not
really
going to any other
hard to
topic.
talk
Today is
about
not the
this
topic
stuff.
for anything else. This one is important right now. This one. All right? Makes sense?
Can we clarify in terms of going back to the topic? But the scholars are not strictly Saudi scholars. We're talking about scholars. They could be in Indonesia. They can be in India, because there are a multitude of scholars from different countries who have betrayed the Muslims, and
Agreed.
it's quite clear. But I don't know why people assume we're just talking about the scholars of Saudi, because they're not the only ones.
It's a type of thing that happened to the people. So that's why I'm sticking to the fact that the Munaafiq scholars, because technically that's a whole umbrella. The whole idea is those who were willfully blind, who've seen the deception and the evil done by the British, the tactics that they were played, and they gave fatwas to allow them to carry on. That's the issue that we have now. Right?
But in terms of accountability, how does accountability? Like I'm an average layman, you know, who lives. I don't have any power. How, when you talk about accountability, what does that look like?
Okay, this is
As a Muslim.
okay. This is what it starts for me. At the end of every single one of us, we are responsible for ourselves. Correct? If you
Yes,
die,
correct.
you die right now. We go to the qabr. Our first questions is our responsibility. What did we do for our responsibility? Okay. Now, in order to fulfill this task that Allah has given us, we all have to learn an adequate amount of ilm, knowledge. We have to know our Quran. We have to know halal from haram. We have to know munafiq from a mu'min. We have to know these things. Why? Because we were commanded by Allah and His Rasul, تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. Right? This is the requirement of the mu'mineen. Now, in order to succeed in doing that, you have to have an adequate amount of knowledge to know right from wrong. Right? Now, in spirit of knowing that, what happens when you've come to find out that there was a number of wrongs done? That you find that these wrongs were done by the umara, the leaders, and scholars who should have been the ones who should not do the wrong. What happens then? Then we have to be able to go back to the plan, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم فإن تنازعتم في شيء فردوا إلى الله والرسول إن كنتم مؤمنين. Right? If we have any issues with the umara, the leaders, right, and the scholars, and we have فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ, we have a matter at hand of urgency, of importance that we cannot walk past, what do? فَرُدُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ. Go back to Allah and His Rasul. Now, this is where we're standing at now. The claim is the scholars and the leaders have betrayed us. And their betrayal runs deep. And it's so deep that there's no way to justify it. The only thing that individual can say is these Muslim scholars at the time were either blind from matters or they were willfully blind to the fact. Nonetheless, from where we stand now, we know they were tricked and they were deceived and they did not have any intention of correcting their ways.
So one thing I would like to, and it's a struggle of mine, and I want someone, whatever persuasion you are, to explain to me why. What is it about the scholars, like you explained, and I think we had a conversation a day ago or two, where these scholars who, let's say, just to give the benefit of the doubt, they were blinded and they were lied to and deceived. What is stopping them now to say enough is enough?
Exactly. And that's
Are they cowardly?
exactly. That right there is a key word. Now, what do we know from Islamic principle? If you do a mistake, you harm someone, and you did something wrong, how do you repent from it? How do you correct your mistake? By fixing your mistake.
So this is the issue. So they want us, like, there's a comment section, there's a comment saying name the scholars. I mean, you listed all the scholars earlier. I don't know if the brother was in the chat.
I don't think it was.
You listed them earlier and you can list them again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So these are the scholars who pass fatwas.
Yes.
I'll give an example. The fatwa that was passed in order to allow American bases to be built in Muslim
Yes.
countries.
Uh-huh.
The
Keep going.
fatwas that were passed to allow American fighter jets to pass through Muslim air,
Yeah.
so Baghdad can be bombed.
Uh-huh.
So those are examples, like small examples.
Uh-huh.
Like, given the benefit of the doubt, maybe these scholars were manipulated and were held under duress. But what is stopping them from saying I was wrong
Exactly.
and this was wrong?
Exactly. That's what the major question is. If indeed they've been deceived, then what is stopping them from saying, I was wrong, I made a mistake, a major mistake for that fact. May Allah forgive me. May Allah, they have to show the sincerity in repentance. If we don't find that, but rather we find that rather we find that they are willfully even carrying it on to newer transgressions. Like the reason Muhammad, what was in Abdul Aziz, the Mufti now, going back to 2014 up until now, the matter regarding Palestine and the issues of the Yahud, of the Ansar, what do? They still say, leave it alone. Leave it to the Umara. You will not get closer to Allah by worrying about it, by marching on the streets, by demanding justice. That will not take you closer to Allah, is what they say.
This is what I don't understand as a Muslim, because if you read the Quran, there are ayat after ayat after ayat about justice.
Yes.
About justice and the sanctity of a Muslim,
Yes.
their life. So how do you expect the Muslims to keep quiet in the face of injustice? How are you gonna watch babies dying? Like, I don't understand. Tell me, like, okay, give me a logical reason why I, as a Muslim who believe in the word of Allah, that I should just sit there and watch things happen while these babies die.
Exactly.
Just justify that for me, because it makes no sense.
There is no way to justify it. That's why the claim here is that what you mentioned now, a mu'min is supposed to do that. They do not want to do that. They are trying to say, forget it. So therefore, it is evident that they betrayed us. They betrayed Allah and His Rasul. They betrayed the Masakin. They are the ones who are our clear enemies today.
So this is the problem. You get labeled an agent, and I'm here to ask questions. You know, when you have iman, and you feel Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't get it. You have iman. I pray, look, when someone has iman, and you trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the fullest. Like, I know He will make things right regardless of what happens in this world. But my inner fitra, like my sense of justice is screaming.
Yes,
Like
100%.
what? Like
So how do you get that justice?
how do you watch babies
We
die?
can't.
Tell
We
me.
cannot. We
How?
cannot. We cannot. We should not.
So if I had a leader, like I'll give an example. If I lived in a Muslim country and I know my leader refuses to speak against those Zayos,
Then it is
that place, that
responsibility
blue and
on
white
the
place, right?
people to take
And they
over.
refuse to condemn to the highest order, as a citizen of that country, am I supposed to keep my mouth shut?
No, it is
Knowing full
wajib.
well
It
my
is
deen says
wajib.
justice will prevail.
Okay, at this instant, that would be wajib on the Muslims to overthrow that leader, to get rid of him and to hold him accountable and charge him for treason, because that is treason.
Listen, in Egypt, I was
Treason.
reading in Egypt, right? They have been arresting Egyptian citizens who are going to the border to give donations to the Palestinians. Just imagine you're a Muslim in Egypt. You're collecting donations because Sisi thinks, oh, these people, they're too religious. We need to crack down on the religious folks in Egypt because they're helping the Palestinians across the
So
border.
they manipulate facts. And this is
And when you tell these people this information, they're like, oh, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Never happened.
blind. Because
And you get called an agent.
they're willfully blind. This is what the Munaafiqs are. They are willfully blind to the matter. And this is what I've said before. Many people will go to Jahannam. Many Muslims will go to Jahannam because they're willfully blind. You have number of occasions in the Quran where this is mentioned. قالوا ربنا إنا أطعنا سادتنا وكبراءنا فأضلنا سبيلا ربنا آتهم ضعفين من العذاب ولعنهم لعنا كبيرا. It's mentioned in Surah Al-Ahzab. Who is saying this? Muslims who thought their scholars were correct and leading them wrong. And it turns out they led them astray and they end up in Jahannam. There's a number of other occasions. Look at Surah Al-Araf. Look at Surah Al-Saba. There's a number of occasions Allah mentions that the people will be taken to Jahannam because they were willfully blind. They followed their leaders and they led them astray and they never stood
Emperor,
up against it.
I saw I don't know what persuasion they were, but maybe Salafi, I'm not sure. They said that posting dead babies and women is fitna, is causing fitna. Like, just like posting, because we live in a digital world, that posting a picture, circulating a video will generate an awareness, right? But they were like, oh, it's causing fitna.
Because
Like, to me, I'm confused.
you shouldn't be confused. And that's why I keep saying the Munafiqeen come in different shapes and sizes and ranks. If what we see now, the issue is, whose job is it to help those Muslims? Category number one, it should have been the leader of the Muslims. Category number two, it should have been the scholars, correct? But they failed. On top of that, they've shown preference to the enemy. They've allowed the enemy to carry on. Then what do? Plan B. What's plan B? We have to be able to acknowledge that these people are not our righteous leaders. They're corruptive, they're evil, and we need to get rid of them. We need to make it very
You need to
abundant and
bring up a
clear.
Salafi. I want to know, like, just bring up a Salafi in your panel. Like, maybe ask them, like, what
The
we live in
Salafis
strange times. We live in very strange times.
is only strange because willfully blind events take place.
Like, I don't get it. Like, I literally, I just don't. Because to me, since this whole Gaza situation, I'm stunned how Muslims are conducting themselves online. Like, do you know? But go ahead.
Who's a Salafi here that wants to justify?
And by the way, I think this Zero guy asked me what a Salafi is. I mean, isn't that like the most popular question? We all know the true word of Salafi is following the Salaf, the three generations.
Really, I would say
But there's a
that
group of people who hijack the terminology.
there's a difference between Salafis and Madkhali. I think you're talking about
but the thing
Madkhali. There's people that genuinely follow the Salaf Salih.
See, but the
And-
general public doesn't know what Madkhali is. This is the problem. I know what
that's what-
Madkhali is.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you should differentiate because there's people that don't agree that are Salaf,
So I
and
suppose-
follow the Salaf Salih, but they don't agree with the Saudi government and these Munaafiq leaders.
And such people
So
should
the
not be
ones that are
calling
the most
themselves
rabid
Salafi.
are madkhalis.
Right?
Yeah, the madakhila.
Some such people should not be calling themselves Salafis. If you follow Allah, His Rasul, and Sahaba of the righteous people, call yourself a Muslim. Call yourself
You're a
a Muslim
Sunni
Exactly, but I'm
Muslim,
saying like
yes.
there's people that think there's the Salafi are just like
because they've been lied to.
only
And that's
those.
one of the many
I
lies.
mean,
That's one of the many
exactly.
lies.
They hijacked the term. I mean, generally, you should just call yourself Muslim either way.
Yeah.
Exactly what Allah calls us. But I just like there's a lot of
I
people that are
I
confused
grew up
between the two.
Salafi. I come from a Salafi community. Only recently I've been seeing, well, in the last 5 years, this madkhalis, they're different. They're a different breed. They're like the ruler obsessed.
They are, and they tell you that you have to obey the ruler no matter what. They make the ruler technically untouchable. That's what they've done. That's what Sheikh Abdul Aziz Al Fawzan. That's what these guys done. They justified the evil ways of the kuffar and the munafiqeen and said, "Hey, we're gonna accept this as our way, as a replacement to the Khalifa." That is their betrayal.
You know, I saw a madkhali, support me, maybe he's a madkhali, saying that, you know how recently in Saudi they have allowed concerts and all sorts of fitna to occur.
Yes.
And then he was like, oh, as long as there's adhan, as long as prayers allowed,
Imagine.
it's all fine. And
Imagine.
my mind is blown. Like,
Imagine
what
that.
the
Imagine that.
Like, if you had the most basic knowledge of Islam, you would know what they're doing is wrong. But just saying it's wrong, like,
shows this.
apparently you can't do it.
What is evident, sister, is that these guys do not have Allah and His Rasul in their qulubs. They're fasad. Like, these are the ones that Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said. There are people who recite the Quran, but you won't find a single atom of iman in their heart. Not even their heart. It doesn't even go down their throats. The Quran doesn't even go down their throats. That's who they are. They have not a single shred of iman. These are the people there. They are everywhere. They're in Mecca. They're in Medina. They're the scholars. They're the ones who are leading masajids. They're the ones who are in the front rows of anything of this deen.
How did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam deal with the munafiqs in Medina?
He did not give them power, number one. Number
Number
two,
one.
he protected the Muslim from ever allowing a munafiq in the ranks.
Okay, now how do we take out the munafiqs?
By announcing who the munafiq is and who is not. By questioning simple things, very simple things. It's been 100 years now. No Khalifa.
But the
there
thing
any
is, right
sign
now,
of a
yeah,
Khalifa?
right now the munafiqs are in power, literally, right?
100%. We're in the
Okay,
age
because
of
Allah does say in a way that He gives power to whom He wills, but it doesn't mean that you're blessed in that sort of power.
No,
If
no, exactly. When Fir'aun was given power, does it,
Subhanallah.
you know, like, I mean, this is the corruptive mentality of the people. Allah literally told us, إِلَّا تَفْعَلُوهُ تَكُنْ فِتْنَةٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَفَسَادٌ كَبِيرٌ. The kuffar and the evil will work together and they will corrupt the land. And if you don't stand against them and work together like they're working together, then the earth will be filled with fitna and fasad, major ones.
Yeah.
So we see that.
Subhanallah. Yeah. So now the question is, as well as the Yahud are our enemies of us, or are our enemies, so is the Munafiq. Now,
bigger ones is the
but I
Munafiq.
personally believe Munafiqs are the greater of the enemies than the
Yes.
Yahud right now.
Yes.
Right? So in order to conquer over the Munafiqs and then raise the banner of La ilaha illallah, then you can go sort out the Yahud.
So what we have to do now is what? We got two options here, okay? If we say we're going to go and fight against the Yahud, is impossible because the Munafiqeens are everywhere and they're guarding them. They're protecting
Exactly.
them. They're shading
Exactly.
them. They're shrouding them with
Yes.
fatwas, with armies, with people, with walls,
With
with laws, with
istihlal,
rules,
all
and
of that,
everything.
laws.
Okay, so stage number one, take over the Munafiqeen.
Yeah.
We have to announce that Saudi does not stand for Islam. That we have to make our own Khalifa.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that people don't understand. You do not have to be in Mecca and Medina to announce a Khalifa. You don't have to be.
No,
You can be
Jadal
outside
Islam.
of it. Yes, you can be outside of it bring what you need, and then come over. Like we have the example of Rasulullah when he was taken out of Mecca. Where did he go? He went to go find anywhere of haven. To go do
Yes.
what? To build himself and the community. To be strong. And then what did he do? He came back and stood on business. Okay.
Exactly.
I have a question.
Subhanallah.
Again,
Well
this
said.
might be a little bit off topic. What fascinates me is how this Salafi mindset, no, Madkhali mindset specifically, has captured the youth of the West. You need to do a topic on this.
100%. We can do that even now because it's a part of it. And I've said this a number of times.
Have you
The
noticed? Like a
scholarship.
lot of them are young men. A lot of them
Those are
have
the ones that
sketchy
will say,
past.
"Oh, we have to follow the law of the land." It says in the Quran when they don't have no evidence to
You sound
follow
like
the
you're
law
from
of the
the
land.
UK. You sound like you're from the UK like me. But I've seen like a lot of young people have been captured by this da'wah.
Because, sister,
They've
what?
been brainwashed.
Let's be objective. If a young Muslim in the West wants to learn Islam, which universities comes to mind? Universities of Islam.
Medina University.
There we go.
That's
Now,
a pipeline apparently for Madkhali.
exactly. Now, what happens in universities of Medina? That is the place in which they teach the young generation how to be subservient to the Munafiqin.
That is correct, yeah.
That's what they teach. That's the only thing they teach. Right? Now, when they graduate or leave these universities, illa man rahimallah, but the majority of them who leave it, they come with the mindset that the Al Saud, the Umara, those people are correct.
So it's interesting because like there are different types of da'wah in the UK. It's not just that type of da'wah, but for some reason, maybe it's because they've got so much money, resources, they have a bigger reach. Maybe it's the resources is what's enabling them to capture so many young people. Because I think you can go and study Medina for free, right? Back in the day.
But even now, what associates with the Saudiya? Wealth is associated with Saudiya.
Yeah, well, yes.
Right? You go to the grand masjid, you have rich people, you have that illusion, that mindset where if you follow what they do, then Allah will give you barakah of dunya. Like in Surah Al-Fajr, what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say of the people? There are people that say, the ayat is, وَعَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَبْتَلَاهُ فَقَدَّرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانٍ. Correct? وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَبْتَلَاهُ what was the ayat? فيقول ربي أكرمن فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربه أكرمن. That mentality that the Muslims have been taught to believe that if Allah blesses you, if Allah loves you, then He will give you wealth, then He will give you honor, He will give you izzah, He will give you these things if Allah loves you. And if Allah doesn't like you, then He will give you ahana. No.
It's like the mega churches in America. Those pastors, have you ever seen those pastors that say, if you love Jesus, He will give you riches? If you, there's parallels here.
That's exactly what they do. They tell you that if Allah loves you, you will be swimming in wealth and izzah. And if Allah doesn't like you, then you will be suffering in the gutter. This is exactly what they do. And this is what is associated with them. This is why those who go, they go with the sense of what? Sense of dunya, hubbud dunya. They shroud that with Islam.
There's a lot of takfiring in the comment section, I'm not going to lie.
Let them do it. It hurts them. If they have something to
It
say,
just slips,
come
just
up and say it.
casually leaves their lips. Imagine takfir leaves, like you're casual. Yo.
The weird part is what I'm saying hurts them, even though it is the truth.
You know how the severity of making takfir on a person? Like the severity.
Honestly, it's a bunch of
Without no evidence as well.
Like casually just saying it, it's like you can't, if you're a believing Muslim, you shouldn't be casually saying stuff like that.
What hadith to dismiss the argument?
But even like this man said, I casually takfir other rulers. I said there's no courageous Muslim ruler. If you have basic grasp of English vocabulary, go look what courageous mean. It doesn't mean I takfir them. There's no courageous Muslim ruler.
Wait, especially even the matter that you've mentioned, it is evident that the structure of the Muslim world was created by who? By the British, by the Zionists. They made it. They implemented it. So therefore, the Umara, the leaders and the scholars who are justifying this creation and are backing them up with fatwas and legal legislations of every type are doing what? They are exactly legitimizing the way of the kuffar.
Exactly.
Like simply right now, which one of them wants to bring back the Khalifa? They don't.
Oh, no. They call you a Khariji.
Yes, they don't want the Khalifa. Why? Why don't they want the Khalifa?
Because I think if you had a true Khalifa, think about it. If there was a true courageous, all right, let me highlight that word, courageous leader who took the Quran and implemented it, there's going to be a lot of people in jail.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot of people who will lose their wealth.
They don't want
Right?
it. They don't want it. They will, instead of even putting in jail by treason. You know what the law of treason is in Islam?
I'm being kind.
You're being very kind. Very kind.
That's the least punishment, you know what I mean?
That is like the one who genuinely was deceived and he thought he was doing good and he only did a little bit of evil.
Because under Sharia, under
is-
true Islamic rule, there will be
It
no
is.
such thing as capitalism. There will be no such thing as billionaires. There will be fair equality, justice for all. And I think a lot of people who want the current system that we have, they want to preserve their riches. Because think about it, there's so much inequality in the world, especially in the Muslim world. Of course, the elite want to preserve that. So when you have
Call
Islam,
themselves elite. They're filthy people who call themselves elite. No, they're the people of Khanzir. They're the people of evil. We need to be able to understand this. Like, we need to stop referring to the evil people who are following the way of Nar, of Jahannam, of Iblis. We cannot refer to them as elites. They are filthy people.
no, elite in the sense that they have the money. Do you know what I mean?
Even in that the mindset itself, because you know certain terminologies, they foster certain perspectives, right? If you believe that there's such things of people who have higher standards, what it does is that it creates an environment to say that this is justifiable. Islam is the one religion that has got rid of that. That everyone should be on the same level, have money,
Exactly.
or
They
not,
want to
have
preserve
knowledge or not.
these people want to preserve a structure, a system that oppresses the masses.
Of Jahiliyyah. That's
Of
exactly
Jahiliyyah, essentially, yes.
essential.
So, and I think that's where when you talk about stuff like this and they call you a radical person,
Yes,
is because they know this, they rely on this system.
exactly.
You know what I mean? So you're just challenging the status quo, I suppose.
100%. And that's what bothers them. Because the brainwashing is so deep that certain words trigger certain emotions from them. Like I'm telling them, the
They're
betrayal
projecting.
that happened, right? They will tell you, the most reasonable about them. You know what they're gonna say to you when you tell them, what are you gonna do? They'll tell you, Akhi, all you can do is make dua. Make dua. That's it. Make dua, and Allah will send the Mahdi. That's their highest level of trying to do something correct. Make dua and wait for somebody else to come. Who
What
may or may
makes
not
you
come in
think
your
when
lifetime.
it's time to actually go war, these are the same people that actually will turn their backs on Allah?
It's
They'll be
crazy.
like, you know what? I need to go home to my wife and my kids.
It's crazy. You guys know the story
Allah.
of Al-Kahf, the young man in the cave. We know the hadith of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, recite Surah Al-Kahf, the first 10 ayat or the last 10 to
Yeah.
protect yourself from Dajjal, correct? Did you ever wonder why that's the case? And what is about these young men in the cave? What were their story? What was the pinnacle of their story? It says right there when these young men, youth, okay?
Yeah.
Back to the last point here. The youth, they love Allah and His prophets. When they see something right, they cannot overlook it and follow the wrong. They stand on that ground. But when the elder generation, the older ones, the umara, the mala'ul qawm, when they succumb to the ways of the kuffar, and they say we're weak, mustada'afin, we can't do anything, Allah has allowed for us, they will use examples like, if you were, tortured to say kufr, Rasul has given you permission, you're allowed to say to save your life. Like the insanity, the things they used to justify things. These young men, they said, هؤلاء قوم اتخذوا من دونه آلهة لولا يأتون عليهم بسلطان بين فمن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا. They were mind boggled to say, Look at these, our people. They follow the evil ways when they have no power, when they have no sultan, no one gave them the authority to do so. And they're claiming lies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's exactly it. They're claiming lies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, when you're under torture and you can't take it anymore and you want to save your life, allow them to say what they want you to say. Okay, which scenario did this happen? It happened in Mecca. When there was no Islam. When there was nothing to protect the Muslimin. When Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam himself cannot go and defend them and protect them. Correct? Now, after Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam has conquered the world, has reinstated Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati, has come down and your deen is complete. Are you allowed to say kufr under torture? No, you're not allowed to say kufr under torture. Because your law is haqq. Allah says, if you are standing on the haqq and you are killed on it, what happens to you? You're the shuhada.
Yeah.
You become a shaheed. Stand on that ground. Do not submit. That is literally your opportunity to enter the highest ranks of Jannah. Just to stand on your ground and do not waver from it.
No.
Right? Even if you're taking the example of the two men, Bilal radiallahu anhu, when he was under the severe torture, what did he say? He didn't succumb. In fact, he was even pissing off Umayyah. So you have these two examples. One who wanted to save his life because he was overwhelmed. His mother was killed. His father was killed. He was overwhelmed. And then you have Bilal. He said, no, kill me if you want. In fact, he was pissing him off to the end. But Allah had will for other things. So we have two examples. You have the strong Muslim, the strong mu'min, who even in the face of death will not give up because he understands his job is to proclaim the haqq no matter when, no matter who. To never give up. That is the job. That is our job.
Never give up, it's true.
Never give up. Because the moment you waver and say, I want to survive, my family, my money, my wealth, what are other people going to say? That means you have hubb dunya in your heart. And that weakness will drop you from the ranks.
Wallahi, yeah, I think it was like 2 days ago, yeah. I was thinking, why am I gonna wait for death? Why don't I plan it?
These guys think about something else.
Like, for example, yeah, now, many people will just live this life, yeah, it will come to me whenever. Why don't you do what Allah's telling you to do?
100%. That's the only thing you can change.
SubhanAllah, like, the way Allah explains it, if only you knew.
100%. Now, I understand of the people, of the Muslims, who were brought up with the mindset that the scholars won't lie. There's people who believe this. There's people who were brought up from the day that they were able to talk and hear. They were taught the scholars won't lie. They won't deceive you. They're always going to tell you the haqq. Follow them. They believe the scholars are like the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. And even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The shocking comes to them when we say that these scholars are actually munafiqeen. The people of knowledge who have people of ilm who become munafiqs are the worst people.
Wouldn't that shake their faith?
It will. That's why they're so pissed off.
May Allah protect us from being a munafiq. Ameen.
Ameen. But we have to understand what is a munafiq and how does one become a munafiq. Right? What traits, what characteristics, what stands, what words, what mindsets, what dress codes, right? Which standards make you a munafiq? One has to know these things.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise, the fact is, as I've said earlier as well, many Muslims, when they die, they will be taken to Jahannam because they were blind from their deen. They were blindly following scholars, blindly following people who led them astray.
Brother, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, brother.
I mean, why are you disrespecting the scholars, man?
What?
Bro.
Hold up. Go ahead. What is the
Who's more
distinction?
important? Is that your? Is
I mean,
Allah
Hussein,
important
let
or
him,
the
let him, let him.
scholars?
listen, you
Let him for
know,
a moment. Let him finish his statement.
listen, you consider
Go ahead,
all the
Salman.
scholars to be munafiqs. You know,
Uh-huh.
that's a big time statement, right?
If I'm wrong, and it's absolutely
Okay,
a big
what do you
thing.
think about Sheikh Salih Al
I think he
Fawzan?
listed it. Were you here when he did the list?
Let me
Does he
tell him.
shake hands with
Let's
Mohammed bin
let's
Salman?
start with
One second, brother. One
Does
second.
he
wait.
shake
It
hands with
seems,
Mohammed bin Salman?
Hussein,
Wait.
one second. Hussein,
Listen, I'm
one second.
talking to the brother who owns
Hussein, one
the
second.
room,
Hussein.
okay?
Go on.
It seems like
Listen,
Sharmaki is one of the people we've mentioned where he grew up thinking that the scholars will never be wrong. Is that true, Sharmaki? Do you
listen.
believe that the scholars will never be wrong?
Do you believe the scholars are the inheritance of the prophets?
Okay. Do you believe that they can be wrong? They can be munafiqs, that they can do evil. Do you believe that? Is that a possibility in your mind? Yes,
It's
sir.
not up to me to say that. Because for me to tell someone is munafiq, I have to read their mind and their heart and their intentions.
Their actions
We
alone.
judge what's tahir. We judge what we can see.
How? Their
For you to
actions.
make, listen,
Their
for you to
actions.
make, you never know. Okay, what did Khalid Fawzan do? I mean,
Okay, I
Salih
will
Al
tell you.
Fawzan.
I will tell you. But before we get to that, I want to make it very clear. We can judge a person based on their actions and things they said from their mouth, correct? And positions in which they stand. We can judge them based on that. Yes or no?
You can't.
Okay, alhamdulillah, mashallah.
You can't. No.
We
I don't
can't.
agree with you. No, you can't.
So how do
Because
we?
listen,
How do we
listen.
judge them? We
You
can't judge them at all.
It's not up
If
to you to judge
Iman is
people.
tongue, limbs, and heart, why can't you judge on someone by their actions?
If you have to be fair.
Hold on, let me look.
The
Listen
sheikhs
to
we're
this.
talking
If
about,
Iman
listen.
is tongue,
Okay,
limbs,
is
and the
anyone
heart,
is anyone 40 years old here?
What does age have to do
No,
with it?
I'm asking. I'm making a point. Is anyone 40 years old right now? Anyone here who's 40?
There's about 40 people here. Definitely there might be somebody under 40.
Anyone on a panel? See,
Well,
Sheikh Fawzan was doing da'wah before you even born. And you have
oh
the
my days.
audacity to call him a munafiq.
One
How
second.
dare you?
Wasn't Sheikh
How dare
Fawzan?
you?
Wasn't Sheikh Fawzan the same Sheikh that passed a fatwa to allow the American fighter jets to go bomb Baghdad?
Nope. You see, you don't know. That's Ibn Baz. That wasn't
Ibn
Fawzan.
Baz, or
You see,
I said, I'm asking
I
you to
mean,
correct me.
That's even
Shamaki, I'm
worse.
asking you to
you know,
correct me.
oh
You
man,
know
wallahi,
the
this
level
This is
of
the thing. So
IQ
one
of people
second.
that turn
you
up on
have
this
to
channel
respect your
sometimes.
elders, your scholars.
Yeah, but you said,
Yeah.
but isn't it like you said? If someone, how would you know munafiq? You can't tell their heart. Only Allah
No,
subhanahu wa
I
ta'ala
will
knows,
never
right?
call anyone munafiq.
Yeah, but
That's
you
not
will
up
never
to
know.
me.
But
You
if
understand that?
someone says something and does something, are we
Do
allowed
you
to
know?
judge?
Do you know when you call someone munafiq, you're
Sharmaki,
essentially
Sharmaki,
calling them a kafir?
Sharmaki.
Pretty much.
Sharmaki, very simple, okay? We have a deen, Islam, that is complete. And Allah says, فَحْكُمْ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِالْحَقِّ. Correct? That's ordered by Allah. Judge righteously between the people, correct? Now, in order to judge righteously between the people, we have to be able to gather information, the goods and the bads, the actions of the people. We're not supermen. We're not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cannot read minds of people yet. We can't do that. So how do we judge? We judge what you say and stances that you take. If I catch you right now, Sharmaki, if I catch you right now, okay? I found Sharmaki walking around, going to clubs, committing zina, committing haram, doing every kind of fasad, and later on that same Sharmaki comes to the masajid and he wants to give khutbah. Can I allow that Sharmaki to give khutbah? No, because I clearly see him do fasad and fitna fil ard. I clearly see him do haram. His actions showed he does not believe in Allah and His Rasul. Yet how can I
What
accept
if
him
I
as a
repented?
person?
What if I repented?
If you repented, how long does that take you to repent?
Though,
Okay,
do I repent
nonetheless.
to you or do I
What
repent
is
to
the
Allah?
actions of repenting? You know, there's steps to repent. How do you repent from your mistakes? There's 4 steps.
Listen,
Admit your mistake. Promise you'll
but
never do it
do
again.
I have to admit it to you or do I have to admit it to Allah?
Admit your mistake. If your fitna was done publicly, and it harmed the lives of Muslims, you have to admit it publicly because you harmed people publicly. Okay? You have to promise you will never do it again. And you have to come with evidence that show us that you have reformed. We have to see it to believe it. Okay? And then Allah may forgive
Give me
you.
a minute, brother. You know the issue
Brother,
here is I know
is
you
that
guys.
acceptable or not? Is that reasonable or not? 4
What you're saying,
steps.
it makes sense. I mean, there has
Okay,
to be
alhamdulillah.
accountability. But listen,
Alhamdulillah,
the
alhamdulillah. Okay,
issue here
then.
is
No, we'll
you
get to the
guys have
issue.
a problem with MBS,
No,
right?
we'll get to
You guys
it.
have problem
Don't
with
jump there yet.
MBS, not
Sharmake, don't jump there yet. One step at a time, okay? We're gonna take these steps because I
brother.
want to be
You're
able
taking forever, man.
because I want to decalcify your brains from this brainwashing. We're doing this one step at a time. Okay. If we know the 4 stages of Tawbah includes fixing mistakes and making sure you never do it again and coming with good deeds that opposed to the horrible evil things you've done before. This is the foundation. Okay. Let's take the scholars, for example. Let's take Sheikh al-Fawzan. Let's take Abdul Aziz bin Baz. Let's take these people as example. Well, what did they do? Why are we saying they betrayed us? That's a reasonable question. What did they do? I will tell you. When the Khalifa was destroyed and they knew of that happening, instead of saying we need to reestablish the Khalifa, they turn a blind eye to it. Not only a blind eye, they even sided with the puppet that was brought about by the very country, the very king, the very people who destroyed the Khalifa. When the British destroyed the Khalifa in 1924 and they replaced them with Abdul Aziz al-Saud, these scholars gave fatwas to legitimize Abdul Aziz al-Saud and say he is going to be our leader. So they use fatwa. What is the fatwa? They use Islam knowledge. They use the legal standards and said, this is where we stand and you must obey. Okay, we know that's a mistake. Did they repent from it? Did they acknowledge their mistake? No. They stand their ground by proclaiming that we still have the Al Saud. One dies, is replaced by his brother. He dies, he's replaced by another. He dies, he replaced by another. They justified by saying, this is our way. We do not need a Khalifa anymore. In fact, none of them will ever say we need a Khalifa, we need to make it back. They're perfectly satisfied with the current position. What does that show us? They've betrayed us. They stand in the position to prevent us from proclaiming our Khalifa. And on top of that, whenever the Kafir come and they want to harm our brothers and sisters in the Muslim world, they give further fatwas allowing the kuffar to do whatever they want.
Facts.
No repercussions.
Facts.
No accountabilities.
Okay, I
No
have a question.
questioning of
Listen.
why.
So who
That is
do the
betrayal.
listen?
That is treason. That is the highest level of deception. Hence,
Listen,
they cannot be called scholars. They're
listen.
munafiq.
If you're going to
Bring with
cancel all the
something. Now,
scholars,
Sharmake.
look, let me
From
ask
what
you a
I
question. I
said,
mean,
bring something reasonable.
listen, if you're going to cancel all the scholars, then who do the layman listen to? If there's no scholars, then who do we listen to?
Is that a genuine question? Or
it's a genuine question, like,
I don't know, maybe open up the book, something called the Quran.
so we don't need scholars.
No, wait. Hold on.
We don't need scholars?
Hold on, Sharmake. Hussein, 1 second. 1 second, Hussein. Sharmake, if you say that we have confirmed the Munafiqeen scholars and who they are, we can name them, so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. Let me ask you, are those the only ones who have the knowledge of Islam? Or do you have others? Simple question. Do you have others?
Scholars? The big time scholars are either from Al Azhar University, which is in Egypt, or Medina University, which is in Saudi, right?
On whose standard? On whose standards are they the big time ones?
We're talking about the
Who
famous
gave them the
scholars,
standards?
right?
Sharmake.
No, the
Sharmake.
famous scholars.
No,
Other
Sharmake.
scholars, they're not well known.
Sharmake, listen.
Sorry
talking
to
about-
interrupt, but like Mauritania, Mauritania is actually known as a place that the good scholars
No,
went to learn
you
Islam. They went to
no,
Mauritania.
we're talking about famous scholars where everybody
Yes,
learned in
yes,
life,
but
right?
Mauritania
We're
is
not
a
talking about
place that
regular
like
scholars.
okay.
Okay, but
Okay, is this brother canceling scholars from Mauritania?
Sharmaka, listen,
He's
listen,
not.
listen.
He's
Sharmaka,
talking about
listen.
scholars from the
Guys,
Saudi,
listen,
right?
listen.
We want the
Sharmaka,
same
Sharmaka.
energy. Listen, do you have the same energy with the scholars in Al
Aniga
Azhar?
horta goorma
Or
kugu
you're just
dambeysa
hating
ruqiya
on,
keligaa isku akhrisid because like it seems like as
can you
if
hear
like
me?
you're really
Or
like
you're hating,
completely
or you're
brainwashed
only
with
Yeah,
you
but
hating
not
I
on,
opening
I
up your
think
eyes.
earlier before
Brother,
listen,
open your eyes. The
Moon,
Khalifa
one
has
second.
listen,
been, we haven't had a Khalifa for 100 years. Open up your eyes. Ever since the Ottoman Empire has went down, every Muslim country has been suffering. So you're telling me as a man, you're willing to yourself and your family and your generation to be okay with what has happened? We don't have a Khalifa. That's
listen.
what. Imagine
You have
Canada.
to,
Imagine the country that
here's
you're
the
in,
issue.
Habibi.
You have to,
Habibi. Imagine the country that
listen,
you're in that
you
doesn't have
have
a
to learn
Habibi.
your religion.
Imagine the
The
country that
issue
you're
with
in,
you
Habibi.
is you have to learn the
Habibi.
religion.
Imagine the country that you're
If
in,
you learn the
Habibi.
religion, can I respond? Okay, go ahead.
Listen to me.
Go
The
ahead.
country that you're in right now, that you seek asylum from, when Somali like kabbahda, imagine the country that you're in didn't have a House of Commons. Didn't have a House of Commons.
Yeah.
What would have happened? Where would you go?
Okay.
So if the UK or Canada didn't have a House of Commons, it wouldn't feel safe, right? So imagine the Muslim countries. Imagine the fucking Muslim countries. We don't have a Khalifa. We don't have a House of Commons. We're not safe anywhere. We're weak.
You gonna let me answer, or you just
Go
gonna
ahead.
yap
Right, I
all
was going to
night?
say something, but go ahead.
Listen, let me respond to her. If you learn the religion, you understand that Khalifa will not come before Mahdi. Do you understand that? It's well documented.
Yeah, but
So
so
you can
what
jump
Muslims
when you want.
cannot.
Allah will not ask you
But one
Khalifa.
second,
He will ask you
isn't it
how you
wajib
practice the
for the
deen.
Muslims? But isn't it wajib for the Muslims to build the Khalifa?
No. Do you? I bet you don't even pray 5 times a day, and you're here
What
talking
do you
about
mean? I
Khalifa.
don't.
Hasbunallahu wa
Are
ni'mal
you actually
wakeel,
for real? You're
Sharmaki. How
shutting
are
down
you
the
going to tell
conversation.
somebody that they
How
don't
do
pray
you
5
even
times a
ask?
day?
1 second. What I don't understand is when we are having this type of discussion, why do these people
There's a study
refer?
that came out that
But we
says
are
people
strangers.
who are
1 second,
obsessed with that
Sharmake. We
topic,
are
they don't even
strangers
do
on
the
this
bare
app.
minimum.
Sharmake, we are strangers on this app. We do not know one another. We do not know of each other. So why would you ask me such a question if I pray 5 times a day? It is bizarre. It is utterly bizarre.
It's tactics. Anyway,
So
let's go back to one
Because
very thing. I
people
know,
who are
Sharmaka,
what do you
Sharmaka,
mean? You don't even know
they
me.
don't even do the bare minimum. That's the issue.
You don't
You
know
think
people. You're a
like your
stranger.
problems will be solved.
don't
Yeah, but
believe
Sharmake, you are a stranger. Nobody knows you.
badanaa nimankan jin caashiqa ku dhex jira naag jin caashiqa ku dhex firsatay no I'm serious. A lot of people have jin possession, jin caashiq, and they don't even know it. Diagnose yourself, because you wouldn't be popping off in the mouth saying, oh, Saudi Arabia, horta, we don't have a House of Commons. We don't have a Khalifa. What the country that you're in, if you didn't have a House of Commons, what would you do? You would rock your back like a weak man, like me too. I'm weak too. Aniga, I'm with you. Aniga, I'm weak. If I was in Canada and there wasn't a House of Commons, I would go to the neighboring country that would support me, give me rights, make sure that I'm protected. But Aniga, oh, Saudi Arabia, I trust. What
Okay, then I have a question. I have a question for Sharmake. Who do you blame for the state of the Muslims today, where Muslims are suffering, right? People are dying, where we cannot protect each other. I want to go back to my homeland, and I want Islam to rule my homeland, but it was destroyed. Who do you blame to the state of the Muslims?
Listen, I blame the Muslims.
Saudi Arabia.
Listen,
So
we
you
can't.
blame the Muslims. So you blame the victims.
Listen.
Let's
Nah.
not gang up on him.
Can I finish? You gonna let me finish, or you just gonna jump in?
One second, Sharmaka. Let me just set something. Sharmaka here, he represents many people who think like him. So let's use it as an opportunity to really also make it clear for the rest of the people in the comments to see what's wrong with the way that he's thinking. So let's come from a point of reasonable. Okay?
Let
No
me respond.
personal attacks. Go
Okay,
ahead.
if these leaders, you know what happened in Syria, right? Bashar al-Assad, he didn't have anybody to fight for him, right? If Egypt, like the Sisi guy in Egypt and this guy in Jordan, all these leaders, if they don't have anybody to fight for them, then they'll collapse. So the issue is the Muslims are the problem. Don't play the victim card and be like, oh yeah.
Hold on.
Listen,
Shamake, if you're going to blame the average layman, yeah, the person, I'll give you an example. In Egypt, Sisi is a tyrant. If you say one thing against him, not only will he imprison you, he will wipe out your entire family. So you're telling me you're blaming that individual layman Muslim who has no power, who's in poverty, who cannot take care of his wife, who cannot take care of his children. You blame him then rather than blaming Sisi. You see your logic?
no, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
But
Listen,
you're blaming
listen.
the
No, no,
average
no, no, no.
Muslim over the
What I,
leader.
no, CC is a mujrim. We know that. He's a war
He's a
criminal, right?
tyrant.
Listen, we know that. But the problem is not just him. CC is not going around arresting people or killing people.
He's
It's
arresting
his army, his thugs, right?
citizens.
So
Do you read the
if
newspaper?
listen,
He
if the
arrests his
Muslims can
citizens if they utter a
listen,
word
can I
against him.
finish? Can I finish?
I just
If
realized,
the
wallahi, we
Muslims
have the
listen,
biggest
if the
problems in
Muslims
the
in
world,
Egypt, can I finish? If the
and this is
Muslims
your
in
own people, like your own Muslim fellow people that you think they're Muslim but they're not. And
Exactly.
Can you let
and this is
Shamake finish? Let him finish. I think he was responding to me and we need to be fair. But one thing before you respond, Shamake, you know in Egypt what's happening, because I've got family in Egypt. Sisi is arresting people, right, that are organizing to help Palestine. You know that's happening. He's arresting very religious folks who want to go to the border and help the people come into Egypt. Imagine, that's and apparently you can't go against that leader. So go ahead, answer my
is
question.
if these leaders get that Bashar al-Assad treatment, they will not rule. You know
What about
why?
scholars? What about the
MBS,
scholars?
listen,
What about the
listen.
scholars? Who's
We'll
gonna
come
hold them
back to the
accountable?
scholars. Listen, if you know what happened to Bashar, like Sisi couldn't sleep. They're still depressed until today because they're scared of what? When people rebel, they will literally abandon their leaders, right? But the Muslims here is they're so gullible. Like they will do anything Sisi tells them. Like don't cry if you're gonna support Sisi and do all his dirty work. Don't cry when the Yehud abuse you
I think
guys,
you're
right?
missing the point.
So
We're
all I'm
talking
saying is,
about the
all I'm
leaders
saying
and
is,
holding them
you
accountable.
guys need to differentiate between the scholars
You are
and
missing
these
the point.
tyrants
Yeah, but
and
don't you think the
dictators.
scholars are
So if you're mad
tied
at
to
the
the leaders?
dictators, don't include the scholars. That's my point.
Yes, we're
Leave the
talking about the
scholars alone.
scholars. Let's not talk about Jahili leaders.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's face
go
it.
back into the scholars.
Let's
Okay,
talk
go
about the
back.
scholars. They're the biggest issue here because
I have a
CC's
question to Emperor.
they're scholars.
I cooled down. Sorry, like his temperament pissed me off. Sorry, salam alaikum. The Emperor, I have a question.
What's that?
So, long ago, right, Somalia, my grandfather was like a very famous sheikh in like regions like, Puntland, alhamdulillah. And when he was teaching Islam, it was under a different, it was just different. So when they sent scholars, not scholars, but people to Saudi Arabia to learn their religion, they came back crazy. Because before that, Somalia didn't have any, it wasn't inflicted with any war or anything.
Just
But
say it. There was no Wahhabism.
there was no Wahhabi, nothing. So when they went to Saudi Arabia, I don't know what happened. That's when I look at alhamdulillah, the only reason why I go to Saudi Arabia is
My
for
granddad
Mecca.
has a similar story, by the way, from the 70s.
Yeah, the only reason why I go to Mecca is for Medina and Mecca. Other than that, kick rocks. But what I've noticed is and I'm someone that's logic. Common sense is risk, by the way, and rahma is risk too. May Allah increase our risk for people who have rahma and people who have firasa and people who have discernment. Because if you don't have it, wallahi, in this world, the world's gonna chew you up and spit you back out. But anywho, so something happened when the people, they selected specific people to go to Saudi Arabia to learn something, and they came back, and the biggest red flag is, how come you're dressing like an Arab? What's up with that?
So what happened is this.
What?
Before you go, Emperor, there's actually a really interesting story I actually
Man,
tell you.
stop
My
speaking for Somalia, man.
grandfather was he studied in Egypt. This is in the 50s. So he went back to Somalia in the 70s, and he mentioned when he landed, he went to a mosque in Mogadishu, and then he found these two gentlemen. And these two gentlemen refused to pray Jama'ah with the rest of them. And that was odd, by the way, to refuse to pray Jama'ah on a Friday with your rest of your Muslims. And he asked them, where did you study? Oh, we studied in Medina. Oh, we do not pray among the innovators because you're all Sufis. This is in the 1972. 1972. So there was something funny going on at that time when people went to study in Saudi.
You actually know
There's a
the
reason.
Sufism started as a political movement. Do you know that?
Okay, Shamake.
Do you know
Let
that
Emperor
the Ash'ari?
Anyways,
Listen,
Sharmak, let
if you
me
follow Sufism, right, you follow Ash'ari. Ash'ari,
Sharmak,
the guy
Sharmak,
Abu
Sharmak.
Hassan al-Ash'ari came 300 years after the Prophet.
That is
So
wrong on
we
so
were
many
Muslims.
levels.
Listen, let me finish.
When did Ibn Taymiyyah come?
Let me
Sharmak?
finish.
When did Ibn
We
Taymiyyah come?
Somalis cannot. You know, the issue is I can't speak if you keep interrupting
No, but
every
when
second.
did Ibn
right?
Taymiyyah come?
No,
No,
because
can I finish?
now,
Listen. We Somalis, we were Muslims before Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari came, right? So everyone was a Salafi at one point. You know what
no, they were
Salafi
not.
means?
No, they
No, we
were
were
not.
not.
Literally
Ilaha,
means
nigga,
taking
nigga,
the
Salafi.
Quran.
What are you talking about? We were not
Oh
Salafi. We
my
were
God.
Muslims.
Bro, I can't have a decent conversation because I lose my
No,
chain of
because
thought
you're
if you
making
keep
things up
on
that's not
interrupting
real.
me, you know?
Do you know
Yeah,
who
so
the
we're
Can I
not
first?
finish?
Salafis.
Do
Don't
you know
What
make
I'm
who
me.
the
telling you
first
is, what I'm
tasawwuf
telling
was?
you is,
Let's hear about it.
Salafism literally
No,
means
it
taking
was
the
No, it
Quran
doesn't.
it
Nowhere in the
literally,
doesn't.
Quran
right?
says Salaf. Where does it say?
Okay.
It just Salaf just means a path.
But you're advocating for
What does it
Sufism.
say? Does it say anything about
Let me
the
clarify it,
sunnah? The
sister.
sunnah. Allah
Sister,
says,
Mm.
"Follow my." I'm not Allah. Like the Prophet
sister,
ﷺ in the Quran, it says, "Ahl al-Bayt,"
The
and the
thing is,
sunnah.
you,
So
sister.
where is Salaf?
Let me, guys, let me clarify something, okay? We know what happened in the Muslim world. If we're gonna talk about one thing, we need to be able to talk about all of it. What happened after Rasulullah when the Khulafa Rashidin became muluks, kingdoms? What happened? There was a big problem. In fact, it's very similar to what we have. And that was the ones who became kings were based on blood and not based on ilm, not based on knowledge. So the people of knowledge, the people who had ilm, they had to sway away from the muluk, from the kingdoms. Let me give you an example. We have Hassan al-Basri, rahimahullah. He's literally the one who was raised in the household of Rasulullah. He witnessed the reign of Umar ibn al-Khattab, of the Sahaba, and he also lived all the way until Bani Umayyah. He lived for 100 years. He witnessed the best and the worst. Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah was one of the people who did not associate with the Bani Umayyah Muluks. He stood away from them. In fact, he is known as one of the early tasawwuf. Why? What was these leaders doing? What they did is they would corrupt Islam in the way of saying only the Mala'ul Qawm, the Bani Umayyah, have accounts of the Baytul Mal goes to them, the authority goes to them, they can do whatever they want, authority and rank of bloodline and royalty. This is against Islam. Okay. We know Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah, and as well as many like him, did not have the power to do something about it. I mean, we can justify certain aspects. Those who fought have been killed and died. The remaining ones chose to educate the people. Okay. If you go down the line, pass through history, the same thing is kept on repeating, where the kings was based on bloodline and based on lack of knowledge. The people of knowledge always stood on a stiffer side. At some point, what happened is the kings would bring so-called scholars that are under the payroll to legitimize and justify whatever the king needs. Okay? The trend that's been going on and on and on. Now, from the people who learn ilm and they see this, there are those who say we don't want to be a part of it. And this is the origin of the tasawwuf. However, linking to our issue in the last 100 years, and I'm going to stick to the last 100 years, what happened to us? Go. We know what happened is the Muslims were destroyed by the kuffar. Being the British, the French, German, name it, the kuffar. They orchestrated the plan along with the Zionists. We know they planned and executed and orchestrated the plan to restructure Islam.
brother, are you a Sufi though? Can you clarify your position?
What do you mean? Why do you want to know about
No,
what
I'm
he is?
just
Like, Sharmaki, what's wrong
listen.
with you? Like, can you just
If
chill
you
and
if
just
you
let
if
the
you don't make an
conversation
argument,
absorb? Like, what's wrong
listen.
with you?
If you don't make an
You
argument,
know
you
what?
have to
You know
tell
I'm
your
tired about
people
you
what you
Salafi
believe.
people. Your whole day
No,
is
he's
spent
making
on
an argument.
deciphering who's
Listen, listen.
Salafi.
He's making an
Listen,
argument.
it's
You
not an
have to.
argument.
I'm setting the exact thing that
I
happened in
know,
history. If you're
but what's
denying
your
that and you
position?
want to cloud it with Sufi and
Sharmaki,
Salafi,
go
big problem
drink
that you
some
have.
milk. Go drink some milk.
Milk is not even going to help the matter here. Milk won't even help the matter here. The history is here. There's no denying that the British, the Zionists, destroyed the Khalifa in 1924. This is evident. This is history. This is on paper. This is evidence. And we also know that it was the British who created the Saud, Abdul Aziz al Saud. We also know evidently that so-called scholars who were under the payroll of Saud gave fatwas to legitimize him. What else did they do? They created hubs of knowledge they called universities, where they would brainwash the people that come there to instill in this mindset to be obedient to their leaders, to their people, to their so-called umara. This is history. Now, as the sister was saying earlier, back then, when individuals went to Makkah and Medina, they thought they're going to learn Islam. They thought they're going to learn the way of Rasulullah, but they ended up being brainwashed to be subservient and believe in the nonsense of Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, the Wahhabi system, which essentially was this Salafi system that allowed this mindset of allowing the kuffar to do whatever they want and to create this mindset that looks like Islam. It says we don't want bid'ahs, we don't want these things, but in reality, it is grounded and founded on the foundation of shirk on its own. Why? Because they side with their very masters who were the British. The history. You can call it wrong or not. It just shows you do not know the history. Now,
there's a brother on YouTube that's called a historian, something. He's a Somali guy, very knowledgeable. And he is someone who actually reads the book and he breaks it down and he tells you what went wrong, what happened, why the Muslim empire has fell down, why we're weak and all that stuff. Sharmake, you're someone that honestly, astaghfirullah, I don't know, but I can just make dua for you. Ya Allah, may Allah open your heart, because it's our own people that's against us. Because these Salafis, no, honestly, these Salafis, the way that they argue, it's I don't want to use it as an example, you're better than the Zionists, but it's how the Zionists, the Yehud schools, how they train them to argue. What's your source? Da, 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 da. And it's just yo, bro, how about do 2 rak'ahs and chill? Chill out, do 2 rak'ahs and come back. What's wrong with you?
Quran, okay, one second. They want some Quran, right? And some Sunnah. Okay. Did Allah not say in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu,
Lul,
لا
follow
تتخذوا
that.
اليهود والنصارى أولياءكم بعضهم أولياء ومن يتخذ منهم فإنه منهم. You're told this. But your Munaafiq scholars told you what? They convinced you and told you this is referring to all Christians and all Yahud, don't be friends with them. And what do they do? Who are the Americans? Who are NATO? Who are the Zionists? The very Yahud and the Christians that Allah says don't be friends with them. Don't ally with them. Don't work with them. The ones who themselves are allies of one another. And who were the Zionists? The very ones who brought down the Ottomans, destroyed the Khalifa, corrupted the land. They were the exact ones. So these people, your scholars, are telling you to do things where they themselves are making it legal for them to do it. Right? أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبِرِّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ. That's what they're doing. Now, to make matters worse, is it kufr? Is doing that kufr? Allah says in the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لا يا الذين آمنوا إن تطيعوا فريقا من الذين أوتوا الكتاب يردوكم بعد إيمانكم كافرين. Allah says, if you take any matter from the people of the book, particularly the Yahud, you obey them in a manner, whether that be a manner of law, manner of idea in the sense of wanting to do what they bring for you. Allah said that is sufficient to take you out of your deen. Now, is the Yahud behind the creation of Al Saud and their foundation of scholars? Yes. There's the same Zionist people who created the state of Israel are the same ones who created Al Saud. Did these scholars justify it? They did. Did they stop there? No. They kept going and going. They allowed the 2001 thing to happen. The scholars allowed that. They gave fatwas, pro-Israel fatwa. You can find the link on my bio, it's free. They did allow the corruption and killing of the people in, name it, Palestine, name it, Iraq, name it, all Libya, name it. They gave fatwas to legitimize that, calling it terrorists. They use the same terminologies the kuffar did to come in and invade Muslims and harm Muslims. They gave fatwas on those behalves. right? They've constantly sided and protected the kuffar. Whenever we say hold them accountable, they say no, we cannot. They do that, right? This is betrayal. Either you're going to be willfully blind and say, you know what, these scholars are correct. And like Sharmaka said, we cannot hold scholars accountable. That's lies, complete lies. Your responsibility is to hold the ones who do haram accountable. Forbid the evil, enjoin the good. If your scholar lies, deceives, corrupts, takes money from the kafirs, right? You see that, you have evidence of it. Are you still going to call him a scholar? Are you still going to invite him to the masjid and say, yeah, Sheikh, lead us in salah? What salah is that? What ibadah is that? All I want is evidence from this man. I gave you evidences. If what I'm telling you went from here and what are the other, what can I do? I've stated 2 ayats for you. You have a number of hadith associated that Rasulullah tells you, do not allow the munafiqin to be your leaders.
Friend. And
No,
Sharmaka, you know what you should do instead of like waiting to argue back? Write down what he's saying. Go hit the books, learn, okay? Go find some ilm. You're not going to find to argue with somebody.
Listen, Lul, let's debate in
buugga fur
Somali.
runta run aan
In
isku
Somali.
sheegay ninaa hortiisa fiirsanaysaa waa la
Horta
doonaysaa gabadh
fiiri,
dagaal aa rabtaa
fiiri.
buugga
Horta ma
ilaahay inuu ku
imaqashaa.
siiyey. What was the first
You know,
ayat that came out?
there's a lot of people
اقرأ
who don't
باسم
speak
ربك
Somali.
الذي خلق wax soo
Okay.
Anyways,
Let's debate in Somali.
no. We cannot do Somali here. We need to.
Not today, but I'm talking about Lul privately.
Another time, sure. Another time.
Ah, but I'm asking you, brother. Waa ogahay, but like inaan runta kuu
nin
sheego.
aan la shakaysto luqan kale ma jirto ogow
Okay, haye waayahay.
xisbana allah wa nicma wakiil
No, de adiga dhibka ku haysta waxa waa aniga
no
shukaansi
salafka way dhibaan I hate
No,
I
shukaansi
hate
kama raba inaa
Salafis.
mataqaana wax ku
I
fahansiiyaan
hate
rabaa.
Salafis. I will tell you this right now. I hate Salafis.
No, you hate the Saudi government.
No, I hate
Wax kala
Salafis.
saar.
I hate Salafis.
The issue here is people can't differentiate between Sheikh Sudais and Fawzan and Ibn
They
Taymiyyah
are the ones who betrayed the Muslims. They betrayed. Fawzan betrayed.
MBS is not a Sheikh.
You know who the real scholars are? You know who the real imams are? The ones that
He's
are
a
in jail in Saudi
politician.
Arabia.
Listen, Sharmake. MBS.
I mean, what's up with
protected
this
by
Saudi
Sudais.
hate?
Yeah,
What's going
Sharmaki,
on?
the ones who are in jail in Saudi Arabia, the scholars that are in jail, the imams that are in jail in Saudi Arabia, they hold the truth. They know the truth.
Yes,
They're
that's
the
why they're in
ones
jail.
who those are the ones
Who are
who
in
we should
jail.
be following. Not
Exactly.
the ones who are free and not able to make dua in on Ramadan about Palestine. You know they say Palestine
So
once
do
that
you
guy is
guys
gone for a
believe
few
we
weeks.
should boycott going to Umrah and Hajj?
It would be better to be able to.
Because
Honestly,
I've seen Muslims that hate the movie so much.
Listen.
They call for that.
Do you know what happens in Hajj and Umrah? Do you know what happens to the people? Do you know the deception that happens? The individuals that come from North America are charged more money than the people in the land, and you'll be stationed in the same hotel. This is deception. The ones who are, from lower countries, they're charged differently. Like literally, the injustice happens everywhere. The segregation happens everywhere. You're trying to justify the evil these guys do. To make matters worse, with all the money they get from the Muslims to go to Hajj and Umrah, where did all that money go? What do they do with it? They go and they give it to the kuffar, the Yahud. They pay off the evil ones technically, and they do all kinds of other manners of haram by creating, clubs and creating other stuff that they're calling, we want to create the tourism infrastructure. By 2030, they have plans to do many more horrendous things. Like, I don't know when you people are going to open your eyes, but honestly, you have to admit they've betrayed us. And if you cannot admit that, then admit that you're a Munaafiq, that you side with them. One of the two things. Is there a third option?
If you're gonna cancel like half of the scholars, at least tell people like the good scholars. You can't just mention the bad scholars. You have to tell people the good scholars. Then, who are the good scholars according to you?
Okay, let me tell you.
Since you're judgmental, you're judging every Muslim, man.
Let me tell you who the good scholars. The good scholars are the ones who will tell you Allah said to stand up against the kuffar. Forbid the evil, enjoin the good. Okay? They tell you, they order you to obey Allah and His Rasul and to assist the Muslims, to stand with them, to stand for them. These are the ones who tell you the haqq. They are the good scholars. They can be from any place. They can be from all over the world. The two traits, if you're looking for a particular name, I know what you're doing. But you're missing the point. You're missing the point. There's two categories.
That's a
You have the
valid
ones
point.
who are telling you to obey the
Listen.
kuffar, and you have
You
the
named
ones
the
who tell
bad
you to
one.
obey
How come you
Allah.
can't name the good one? I mean,
There's already a number of one. If you right now cannot differentiate haqq and batil, what is good is a scholar going to do for you? If you can't even tell deception from good.
Akhi, you know there's 2.2 billion Muslims. Then I'd say 80 to 90% of them, they don't even know the basics.
I agree, 100%.
So they need scholars. Just like how when you go to school, you need scholars. Like they have to be experts.
Name your scholars. Why are you afraid to name your scholars?
I am with the Saudi scholars. I am with
I'm talking
Sheikh
about the host.
Fawzan. I mean, I find them to be pious men. You know what I'm saying? Allah
How are they pious when they've deceived and betrayed?
Listen,
what is piety to you guys, man?
You know, MBS. I mean, if you say MBS is a mujrim, he's a war criminal, he's a tyrant, I agree with you.
Okay, who protects him?
If you disrespect, no, I don't think they do. MBS is not even a Muslim, man. I'm telling you.
One second. Assalamu alaikum.
Let me finish.
One second.
Okay. Go ahead.
Who helps MBS?
Akhi, 1 second, host. You said. You said.
Who helps MBS? 1 second, Adi. Who helps MBS? Who legitimizes him? Sudaisi legitimizes MBS. Abdul Aziz, the one now, he legitimizes MBS. They see his evil that you just mentioned and they legitimize him with fatwas. And they say he killed our leaders. Is that not betrayal?
They don't legitimize him. That's a lie.
Yeah, Ikhwan. Tell me on one occasion that they've held them accountable.
1 second.
Said,
1 second. Let me ask you something.
No. One second.
Let me ask you something. Now you mentioned 1 second.
Forget your question for a moment.
So say you don't want to answer, man.
Give me one instance where Sudaisi and the current muftis right now said about MBS, this is haram, stop. Give me one occasion that they've said that. I'll give you a number of occasions where they legitimize
these things. They mention الخطبة the fawahish is haram في Allah.
Generalize it.
No, 1 second. Now I'm asking you, you said he's a Munaafiq. What does Munaafiq mean in Islam?
There's a big category, but the ones who betray Allah and His Rasul يقولون
بأفواههم ما ليس في قلوبهم. Did you say that?
Basically, you know.
يقولون بأفواههم ما ليس في قلوبهم. That is the Munaafiq for you. The ones who say from their mouth what is not in their qulubs.
Define Munaafiq. Listen, you said Sheikh Fawzan is Munaafiq. May Allah guide you. You said that he's Munaafiq, yeah?
For his
now
actions,
define Munaafiq. What's Munafiq? Islam.
The one who betrays Allah and His Rasul. The
one
wrong. Listen.
Wrong. So you don't even know what you're talking about.
If he doesn't know what he's talking about,
you're using terms that you don't even know. Islamically, define Munafiq. What is it?
A Munafiq is one who does not care for Allah and His Rasul.
La ilaha. Sorry, he doesn't even know Munafiq. Miskin, yeah, miskin. You don't even know the words,
Munafiq is basically someone who like outwardly shows Islam, but inwardly he's a kafir.
Kafir. Barakallah.
That's what it is.
So Munafiq. 1 second.
You don't even understand.
1 second. You didn't even know. You couldn't define it. Anyways, now, do you have proof?
This is what's coming.
Listen. Do you have proof that Sheikh Fawzan and all these other ulama,
I've stated the proof.
They hide kufr in their heart. 1 second. Do you know this?
Were you sleeping when I said this? When I already said the proof? Were you sleeping? Were you not?
No. Do you have proof that they hide kufr in their heart? Because this is
fact that they stand with the kuffar shows that they have kufr in their heart.
Subhanallah, look at this.
They stand with the kuffar and legitimize the evil of the kuffar shows they have kufr in their hearts.
Is Fawzan Allah with MBS?
1 second, you go me. I'll talk to the host. 1 second.
No, he's correct.
You 1 second. You said that Sheikh Fawzan, because he stands with the kuffar. Give me one fatwa where he stands with the kuffar, please.
A number of them. He was a part of the
Just one. Don't
fatwa
give
that
me a number of them.
legitimized.
Give me one.
Listen, ya Haywan. He was a number
يا
of
أنت
the
حيوان
people.
يا جاهل.
Listen,
You
ya
don't even know
Haywan.
what
Listen, ya
Munaafiq is.
Himar.
يا
Listen.
مسكين.
He was one
صوفي
of those
أشعري
people.
تكفيري
Listen, Himar.
خبيث.
Listen, Himar.
هداك
Listen,
الله.
listen.
No, let's
Stop,
be
stop
respectful
sounding
at
like a
least for the
donkey.
sake
Yeah,
of
but he
Listen.
started it
audience.
because he's pressed.
Yeah,
Because I'm pressing him.
No,
He
you're
knows
not
he's getting
pressing
be
nervous.
nothing.
respectful, man.
He
You know
came
we
with
can debate.
Ignorance is
We can
mind-boggling.
debate
insult.
without
I said a
One
number
disrespecting
of
each
fatwa
other,
bring
guys. Come on.
where he sided with the kuffar.
Listen. Stop with your nonsense.
يا منحرف. Go on, man. Bring us the
Listen,
fatwa.
Himar.
We're waiting.
If the words that I'm telling you can
Listen,
convince
حمار.
you, it would be
Listen,
blasphemy.
حمار.
Bro,
سيد
Listen,
الناقو هلا.
listen.
let me
That's
tell you
Bro,
the
bring one
evidence.
listen,
fatwa. Nina Kumaba right now.
The fact
bro.
that
Huh?
Fawzan and Bin Baz
Don't run away. Don't run
legitimized.
away.
Himar, listen. You have a tendency
حمار.
of
Listen.
not
At least
hearing
talk like
anything.
نين رقص.
You
Talk like نين
have
رق, bro.
tendencies of not hearing anything. The
Bring
fact
us
that
one
Fawzan and
fatwa.
Bin
One
Baz
fatwa.
and all of
يا
them
منحرف
have
خبيث.
sided and
Bring it.
allowed the kuffar going by legitimizing Ibn Saud, by knowing that the British were the ones
Look. He's
behind
going
the
around the bush.
betrayal of
I
the
told him, give
Muslims.
me one. I told him, look, everyone can hear. I told him, give me one fatwa where Sheikh Fawzan.
Nonsense. I'm telling you, you're not even listening. I'm telling you, you're not even listening. You have doo-doo in your ears. Take the doo-doo out of your ears. Take the doo-doo out of your ears. The fact that they've legitimized the actions of the kuffar. Okay? The fact that they've legitimized the actions of the kuffar. Which kuffar am I talking about? In the creation of Al Saud, who created them? The British did. Ibn Bin Baz, he's there. He was there when it happened. He was aware of it. He was standing when it happened. What is his fatwa? He says we don't need a Khalifa. He says it is acceptable for Abdul Aziz ibn Saud to be our leader, to replace the Khalifa. That's what he did. And later on, whenever the British and the Americans wanted to corrupt the land, go back to 2001, and they wanted to invade the Muslims, they gave fatwas. They use ayat. You can go with my link in my bio. You find the pro-US fatwas and who made them. The number of occasions that these people have taken to corrupt and betray and harm us is endless. Yet you have Himar around. Where's the... Wallah, it's insane. It's insane, subhanAllah. It is insane.
There's different traits of Munaafiq, but they don't seem to understand that.
Because they're a part of it. I literally told them an individual who says from his mouth good and is not in their hearts. That is a true definition.
You know, sometimes, the emperor, sometimes you use Shia's talking points. You know the Shias, the way they attack the Saudis, brother. Wallahi, I'm serious.
You think Shia's the only one that attacks
Okay, do you
Marcus,
consider... Listen,
I came back just for you.
listen. Do you consider the Shias to be Muslim?
Talk to Lul. She'll destroy you.
No,
You
Lul
want
is
to
too
know
much.
what? How the Shias are Muslim? Why would they not be Muslim? They are Muslim.
Listen.
What
Out of
about the
all the stuff that
Rafida?
I said, the only takeaway for you is to say, oh, you sound like the Shia. I've told you of betrayal. Instead of being alarmed from this betrayal, your brain is stuck. It's stuck on Shia. It's stuck on this brainwashing. This is why I say you guys are a part of this cult. You cannot overlook this brain deadness.
No, let
Why?
me tell you my position. Let me tell you my position.
Why?
That way you understand me better. Brother,
Bro.
listen. My position is you have to separate politics from religion.
Ya
So what
Rabbil
MBS is doing, let me finish.
Alamin.
What MBS is doing is
Ya
up to
Rabbil
him,
Islam is
right?
politics.
What you
But
said
let me
right there
finish.
is against
Let
Allah
me
and His
finish.
Rasul.
Let me finish.
Islam is
What?
politics.
Okay, what MBS is doing is up to
No,
him.
But you
go
do
back to the
not
point.
bring
Go back to the point.
politics into
No,
Islam.
no.
Islam is politics.
The
We're talking
very
about current
establishment,
event, man. What's happening right now? This, nation flags. I'm
all
talking about
that
like
is
But
haram.
what's
Allah
happening
says
today.
in the Quran, every lesson is in the
What's
book.
happening today?
The
Can I
Quran
finish?
has already told us what's happening today is happening.
All
You know,
of that is
the
part
issue
of
here is
haram.
I can't even speak for 1 minute.
Go back to the point, Sheikh
But,
Maki. You
brother,
have to separate leadership from
but what I'm
Islam.
saying is this nation state, like, this current event today, this politics, like no scholar is responsible for this mess.
Then
Everything,
who? Then who is?
no,
in Saudi, in Egypt, all these countries.
Then who's
Scholars don't make the buck doesn't stop with them. They don't make the final decision.
who's
It's up to the leaders who are propped up by these kuffar. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, hold
So-
on. One second, Sharmaki. When you go to the leader and you say, leader, why are you doing this haram? What does he say? Scholar, I need a fatwa. And the scholar comes running around with
MBS
the
is
fatwa.
literally putting all the good scholars in prison.
So you stop jumping around in hopscotch. This is not
No,
hopscotch.
I'm not jumping.
No, this is not
I
hopscotch.
agree with you.
Stick to
I
the
agree
ground.
with you. MBS is a criminal mujrim.
The ones
I don't
who
actually believe he's a
legitimize
Muslim, by the
who
way.
legitimize
Because-
MBS.
No.
Who allows him to carry on?
He's a dictator, man. It's a police state.
Who
We know
allows
that.
him
There's a
to carry
dictatorship
on?
going on in Saudi.
Whose
You can't
words?
even,
Sharmaki,
brother. You can't even
Sharmaki.
carry the Palestinian flag.
Who
They'll actually
allowed
lock
that?
you up.
Who allowed him to run around like that?
N-
Scholar
I'd
did.
say
He's protected by the scholar.
probably the Zionist.
No, he's protected by the scholar.
No.
So
That
Daisy is
was back in
protecting
the days.
him.
Not anymore, man. Not
Daisy
anymore.
protects him.
No.
The Mufti right now also protects him.
Brother Empire, maybe you can read it
But
in
then
Arabic.
doesn't he not also have
I
power
found
over
an ayat
them?
in the Quran. Maybe you can read it in
He
Arabic.
probably
but
does
it
have
says,
power over them.
No.
What does
Sorry.
ayat say?
Scholars, man, they don't have any power, man. They're in the
Sharmaka,
masjid.
can I tell him
studying,
ayat?
you know what I'm saying?
Sharmaka,
They don't associate themselves with fitna. You know?
Listen, Sharmaka, can I just read an ayat?
Go ahead. We die.
Yeah, and then can you find it in Arabic, because the Arabic translation is more
Which ayat is it? Which surah?
Munaafiq.
Surah Munafiqun.
Yeah, verse number 2. They have made their
المنافقون قالوا نشهد إنك لرسول الله والله يعلم إنك لرسوله والله يشهد إن المنافقين لكاذبون. Right?
so they have made their false oaths as a shield, hindering others from the way of God. Evil is indeed of what they do. This is because they believed and then abandoned faith. Therefore, their hearts have been sealed, so they do not comprehend.
Oh, thank
So
you.
isn't this not an ayat that Allah is telling us? Okay, be careful and be aware of the people who use is like the fatwa that's like a lie as a shield.
They do. And that's why the Munafiq is the most severe to us.
Okay, Lul, can you tell us your scholar? Who's your sheikh?
What do you mean, who's my sheikh?
The
This is here. This
Munafiqs
is
are
in the
more of
Quran.
a
No, I'm
threat.
asking you who's your sheikh. Since you
Forget
speak with
about
all the
the
Saudi
sheikh.
scholars.
Shamaki, can I tell you? Can I tell you what I do? Can I ask a question?
No, one second, Lul. Shamaki, if she says to you, my sheikh is called Abdurrahman, Himel Abdurrahman, do you know him? What benefit does that bring you?
Yeah, I know all the Somali scholars, man. I know all of them, bro. Name
Sharmaki,
one.
stop with that nonsense
No,
and stick to
you know,
the fact
sometimes
here.
I try to understand where people are coming from. You know,
Apparently
Like,
you don't.
What are you using
because
as a
you're trying
base?
to say one
Okay,
thing.
Shamaki, you want me to tell you how
Like describe
how
a
I do
perfect
things?
scholar like that's living today. Because according to you guys, it's hard to impress you guys. Like
No, I
you could
want
be
to
the
see what I
best
do with my
person on
heart.
this
Because
earth.
everything,
If you don't speak
everything
about
falls
Palestine,
down.
khalas, you've
Shamaki,
been cancelled.
Shamaki, can I talk? Can you go on mute? Thank you. Okay. What I do is I wake up in the morning. I ask Allah to clean my heart. I do my adhkar. That's the first thing that I do. I do my adhkar. After that, I may do istighfars. I pray on time. I try my best to make my character be an example of what a Muslim is. I strengthen my heart with cleaning it. After I do that, then I feel like I can make a better decision by asking my Creator, Ya Allah, guide me to a scholar, right? So there's something in Arabic called firasa, okay? Allah says, I guide who I will, right? So you have to be careful about where you get your information. There are chains of narrations from scholars that are wrong, right? But before you can even look for knowledge, you first have to clean your heart. You have to ask yourself, do I have a defected heart? A defected heart will lead you to a defected scholar. Allah says, as Hadith al-Qudsi, I am what my servant thinks of me, right? So if you yourself see Allah as, like he's vengeful, you're not happy with Allah, what Allah has given you and what your decree is and all that stuff, then your whole perception, your whole reality of what you believe Islam to be, subhanallah, that's not the right path. Because you have to first ask yourself in life, what is going on with my heart? If you're a human being that has never done hijama, if you're a human being that has never done self-ruqiyah, if you're a human being that has never done any of these things to cleanse themselves, to purify themselves, then habibi, if you're defected, you have mold. It's like moving into a house that has mold. Are you going to sit and live there and be like, oh, it's still a roof over my head? No, you're gonna either move, relocate to a better location, or you're gonna strip the walls and you're gonna repaint and do what you need to do. That's the same thing. Your heart is a reflection of who you are. So if you don't believe that like the ummah is weak because of the Khalifa missing in our life for like 100 years, and that something happened in Saudi Arabia, who knows what, which Allah does say, do not be friends with a kafir. And if you're like, what's your fatwa? Look at yourself first. You are the one that Allah is going to be giving the book to. Your book is going to be given to you either in your right hand, the left hand, or behind you. So ask yourself, where am I today? Where am I today? Instead of arguing with people, where is my heart today? Where's my defected heart? So if you want to ask me what kind of, what do I do? I don't. You should. I do not. Sudais is not.
No,
to be honest with you,
is he a munafiq?
He's weak.
No. Okay, the brother emperor, do you consider
Sudais
Sudais
is
to be
weak.
munafiq?
Why do I think he's weak?
He's the head of the
Sudais on
Okay,
payroll.
okay. That's
Easy
okay.
on
Wait.
payroll.
So if you consider him to
the
be
head
a
of the
munafiq,
munafiqeen.
listen.
I think he's weak because you know why?
Okay, Lul, let me make this point. If you consider him to be munafiq, then how come?
I don't. No. I
How
didn't consider him
come-
to be a munafiq.
No,
Hear me
the
out.
brother emperor, he
I
considers
consider
him to be a munafiq.
weak because he has a platform.
Listen,
To-
you know, 5 million people pray behind him during Hajj.
And yet they're
So does that mean
and
their
yet
prayer
they're
is
being
not accepted?
deceived. And yet
Since he's
they're
a
being
munafiq?
deceived. They're being deceived.
No, but since he's a
5 million people are
munafiq,
being
is
deceived.
their prayer being accepted?
There are umrahs and
How would it
hajj
be
that are not
accepted?
accepted. What are you talking about?
Why?
Because
Why?
it's violation. Okay, let me
Allah
Sharmak,
says,
Sharmak,
Allah says
Sharmak.
there's some there are some hajj and
Did you
umrahs
say
that
they're
are not
doing
accepted.
shirk? What did you
No,
say?
they're being deceived.
Okay. How?
If
Because
they
they're-
cannot tell the difference between who is righteous and who isn't. Did Sudaisi not exhibit traits of the Munafiqeen? Does he not legitimize MBS? Does he not tell the people, abandon Palestine, have nothing to do with it, leave it alone? That is haram. This is betrayal. This is treason. And yet that same guy is going to say, Istaw, follow me, I'll lead you in Salah. Which Salah is he leading you? He clearly is telling you, forget about the Muslims and the condition of the Muslims while he is in the position of Rasulullah. That is the highest level of treason. Treason.
Oh, okay. You know, the Salafis can actually make the same point against you by saying, hey, you are aligning yourself with the Iranian Shias. Because in the comments right now, I see a couple of Iranians like hyping you up,
Listen, Sharmak.
I see some Iranians
Sharmak,
hyping
let
you
me
up.
ask you a question. Sharmak, let me ask you a question. Who is worse for you as an enemy? The Shia or the Zionists and the Yehud? Who is worse for you?
They're all the same to me.
No, pick one.
Wallahi, I
Shia,
can't.
the
The
Shia or
Shia,
the
the
Yehud
Shias
Zionists?
consider me as a kafir. You
No,
know,
the
look what they
Shias
did
are
in
real
Iraq,
men. They're the ones who
Syria.
are fighting.
Listen,
They're the ones in
Shabbat,
jihad.
Oh
What are you
man,
talking
you
about?
see,
Shias are the
you
ones that are
coming
in
out of
jihad right now.
listen.
Who
Real
is
See,
men.
I pulled you guys out.
Choose
You're
one.
pro-Iranians right
Choose
here.
one. Choose one.
Yeah.
Who
Now I
is
know where you're
worse?
coming from.
Choose
Iran
one.
is a filthy, disgusting country, man.
Okay,
Listen, no,
choose one.
I
And
can't
guess
choose.
what,
They're the
Sharmaka?
same.
You probably don't scrape your
Okay,
tongue, and
let
you
me
have a white
choose.
tongue,
Let me
and you have a
choose.
nasty mouth. What are you going to
Lul,
talk
can
about
I at
Iran?
least talk to one
How
person?
do you scrape your tongue? You probably have
Can
dirty
I-
breath. Oof.
Can I speak to one person at least, man? Lul, can
Don't
you
talk
just
about
go on mute?
Iran being an ugly
Okay.
country. Take it
Okay.
back.
The fact that he
No, I'm
can
not.
say,
Take
the
it
fact
back.
that, Sharmake, the fact that you can say with the British, the
Iranians are
Americans.
actually kafirs.
Listen,
Ayatollah
No, they're not.
Khomeini is a
Listen,
kafir.
take it
Not
back.
even a munafiq.
No, listen. The fact that you can sit there, Sharmake, and say that there is doubts that the Yehud, the ones right now who are harming Palestine, who have been doing it while Bin Baz was there. He was watching it happen. While Abdul Aziz, they were all watching it happen. Those ones, you cannot bring it to yourself to say they're the worst enemies. You still hold, they still
Wallah.
are dear to you in your heart.
No. Brother, listen. what I believe is the Shias and the Zionists are the two sides of the same coin. They have a secret deal. I'm telling you, man. Wallahi, they
What about the
both
Saud? What about the
listen.
Saud? What about the Saud? They're not part of the
No,
same
no, no,
deal?
no, no. Saudis, they might be corrupt. The Al Saud family.
Oh,
Listen.
now you're completely biased.
No,
خلاص
no, no.
خلاص
Can I
خلاص
finish
خلاص
though? Can I
خلاص
finish?
خلاص. No.
No, the
There's
Al
no point in you
Saud.
to finish. مع سلامة مع
No,
سلامة.
I'm telling you,
No,
the
no, no,
Al
no, no.
Saud family is corrupt, but the country is
That
not.
you're not even being justice on any fact. The fact that you're putting all the blame on the Shia and less on the Saud, who made everything possible. Who made
Okay, I have another question.
everything
What's the
I
difference
want to
possible.
between
ask the
Shia and
Empire,
Sunni
can
then?
you tell us more about your knowledge instead of arguing with like
Yeah,
small-minded
no,
people
no.
like Sharmaki?
Sharmaki مع السلامة, brother. مع السلامة. I don't think we're going to get anywhere with this. You're just repeating the same nonsense, downplaying the crimes. How can you do that, man? How can you downplay their crimes? Now, let me repeat it again, okay? We as Muslims have a responsibility and a duty to follow Allah and His Rasul. We have a duty to uphold righteous and just and to be there for the most vulnerable amongst us. Which scholar is betrayed? I will tell you, listen. But first, you have to have the standard. We have a duty to protect Islam, to stand for Islam, حتى أتانا اليقين, until the end comes upon us. Okay? Do you or do you not know that we have been under attack going all the way back to the early 1900s? For those who don't know, there's many of you that don't know. But simple history here. The reason why we lost our Khalifa and it has been illegal for us to reinstate it is because the British, the Zionists are an entity of their own, because in them you have a number of people with a number of countries who have the same mentality, so the Zionists, and you have the Americans who later on essentially became the same. So you have the Kuffar on one side. What did the Kuffar do? They toppled and destroyed the Muslims. 1901 they started many plans. They instilled Al Saud, Lawrence of Arabia. There's a long history. Going all the way down to 1924, May of 1924. It's a big historical day. That's the day where the British called the Sultan Abdul Hamid, the Munaafiq. He called him and said, hey, I need you to get the hell out of there. We cannot have any more Khalifa. Done deal. June of 1924, there was no such thing as a Khalifa anymore. What did the scholars do? Ibn al-Baz was there. Ibn Baz was there. Right? Most of these scholars were all there. What did they do? From 1924 up until 1932, what were they doing? They were busy playing the dogs of the British. Why? They were going with the plan of Lawrence of Arabia. They were completely destroying what remains of the Muslim world. How? When Ibn Saud, Abdul Aziz ibn Saud, when he had the plan and goal to be named himself as a king, they backed him up. They gave fatwas to legitimize him. 1932, 1934, when they got rid of the Najd, the kingdom of Najd and the kingdom of Hijaz, and he killed over 300 Muslims in the Kaaba. They were there. They were a witness to all of these things. Yet, they never condemned this issue. They kept it going. 1935, you have the kingdom of Saud created, and they have given fatwa saying this is a suitable replacement for the Khalifa. The same scholars did these things. After 1935, what did they do? They did everything possible to erase history. While they made the Saud to go after their masters of the British, they said, you know what? We're going to start teaching people Islam, where they brought about the Wahhabism mentality. In fact, they created universities based on this ideology. And what was the ideology? That Al Saud are the rightful leaders. That they're the ones who rule Islam, and none can stop them. Isn't Wahhabi someone else?
I have a
There's a
question,
guy,
brother.
Abdul Wahhab. Yes, there's a guy named Abdul Wahhab. But they took his doctrine, his
Yeah.
discipline. In fact, they call him the reviver of Islam. What a shame! What a sham!
So what does this word mean? Madkhalas. What does that mean?
Madakhali is an extreme group individuals, a part of the Wahhabis who have this other mentality where you cannot hold the leader accountable.
So why is he saying why are so many Somalis becoming a madkhalas?
Because their Somalis are constantly, many of them are affected. Many of them slowly they become Salafis in these masajids. They become al-Ittihad, they become Salafis. They rank up. They go to Medina, they go to those places, and they get involved in these brainwashes. And they stand on ground saying that Saudis, you can't hold them accountable. The Amirs and the Muftis, they're all correct. They cannot be wrong. They're brainwashed. They receive a set of brainwashing that happens.
I don't think it's brainwash. You know what I think it is? The oldest trick. Sihr.
You had one thing, but brainwashing. You know, there's a saying in Somali that says, "Sihrun wa ushak, sihr wa kudrayan." Right? When you manipulate facts to people and you teach them the wrong thing, that's worse than sihr. Because they end up believing this wrong faith. They end up believing this wrong narratives.
No, we're not gonna let you get up. I hate Allah. Salafi sida nacab yahay. Allah soon qoyan yahay siintan garaaca. I hate them. I don't know why.
It's crazy. But anyways, these scholars, okay? Bin Baz, what did he do? And Bin Baz, Abdul Aziz bin Baz is the big scholar for these people. It's evident here. The role that Abdul Aziz bin Baz plays was he was a highly influential scholar in Saudi Arabia. Though his prominence came later in the 20th century, his legacy as the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia was built on the long history of Wahhabi scholarly traditions, and his fatwas played an important role in reinforcing the religious legitimacy of the Saudi state. Did Abdul Aziz bin Baz not know that the British were the ones who instated Al Saud? Did he not know that? He did. He knew this 100%. It was not hidden from him. Did he know that the same British were the ones who destroyed the Khalifa? He knew it. So what did he do? He still legitimized it and said, we want Abdul Aziz al-Saud to be our Khalifa. He used fatwas to legitimize him. The contribution that he did, what did he contribute? While Sheikh bin Baz's influence became more significant in the 1940s and the 1950s, his scholarly predecessor, including those in the 1920s, laid the groundworks of fatwas that legitimized Ibn Saud's rule. The Wahhabi scholars interpreting of Islamic law supported Ibn Saud's centralization of power and his role of the protectors of Islam and the two holy sites. That's what Abdul Aziz bin Baz did. He knew what he was doing. He was aware of what he was doing, and he did it anyways, thinking that this is correct.
Brother,
That's a stop there.
There's this guy named Ibn as-Somali bin Hawiya. Like I've seen him in other places. Don't let him up because he curses a lot. He says wahyala, or like he like.
We won't bring him. But let's carry on. So what did Sheikh al-Fawzan, Salih al-Fawzan, what did he do? What's his role? Salih al-Fawzan. Now, another scholar closely aligned with the Wahhabi interpretation of Islam. Though his most active years came after the establishment of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. However, his religious views are rooted in the broader scholarly tradition that legitimized Ibn Saud as a ruler. Contribution, what did he contribute? Like other Wahhabi scholars, Al-Fawzan teachings emphasize the rejection of innovations, bid'ah, in religious practices, which was the central to Ibn Saud's vision. His predecessors, the fatwas in the 1920s, would have reinforced the idea that Ibn Saud's rule was divinely ordained and consistent with the Wahhabi principle. So, Al-Fawzan, Salih al-Fawzan, right? He knew exactly what he was doing. In fact, he held the opinion, the idea that Ibn Saud's rule was divinely guided. The ones who were led by the nose by the British, they're all on the same side. There's many more of these shuyukhs who played a significant role. There's more. You have Abdullah bin Hamid. You have many of them. You have the creation of the scholar. What do you call him? The Medina, the University of Makkah of Medina. Their goal is exactly to teach this nonsense. That's what they do. This is what they bring in. They overlook the betrayal. Did they not know that they were being played? I mean, you can try to say, no, they were scared. No, they did not know. No, they're just little guys. They don't know anything. No, they were lied to. They're not. They knew exactly what they're doing. And they stood on that position till the end. And now who replaces them? You have Sudaisi now. You have the guy who's the mufti right now. All of them. They all stand in the position. Do any one of them apologize for their mistakes? No. Yet they still believe they're correct. Do any one of them want to reinstate the Khalifa? No. They do not want it. In fact, they're the very people who are against the Khalifa. And you wondered how the scholars betrayed. They've been betraying left, right, and center for forever.
I have a question, brother.
What's that?
So, hypothetically speaking, if the Khalifa were to be reborn, Muslims would be the most powerful.
Before we become the most powerful, first we're going to have to weed out a lot of the Munaafiqeen. And sadly, that's a significant portion of the people.
It's humongous, mate.
Yeah, it's significant portions. Because there's two kinds of Munaafiq. There are the Munaafiqs who are actively involved in the deception and the corruption rooted to deceive the Muslims. Those are the far worst ones. And then you have the other ones who follow the leader. They follow the masses. They're like, they go with whoever's winning of the day. They go with the waves. Now, if you do not effectively get rid of the ones who are sowing discord, sowing this idea that allows the propelling of the kuffar to succeed, allowing the justification of the Zionists, of the Yahud, of Netanyahu and his crew and his evil, if you do not get rid of them by proclaiming the legit Khalifa, it's never going to go. It's never going to work. Right? In fact, they got people believing, majority of the Muslims believe, that you cannot become a Khalifa or state a Khalifa today. That you either have to be a Hashemite, you have to be from that line, or you have to be Arab. Nonsense, filth.
That's true.
Complete nonsense. The requirement is those who are obedient and follow Allah and who are loyal to Allah and His Rasul and good to the mu'mineen, and those who
We're
aren't.
living in dark ages. Wallahi, we're living in dark ages. I have yet to hear a famous sheikh, like someone who has for instance, like Mufti Menk. I'm going to use that as an example. He has like a huge number of followers, right? And what's happening in Palestine? I have yet to hear someone say, you know what, every day at 2 a.m., I want us all to make an effort to stay up for tahajjud and make dua so that we can summon something from the heavens, so we can summon a force from the heavens to stop this. Yeah, but what is it? It's du'as that are just weak. Palestine, but it's just like you have to be really like specific. For instance, like there's like, oh yeah, this dua. اللهم إني أسألك يا الله يا منتقم يا جبار يا عالم السر والأسرار في البر والبحار أن ترد كيدهم في نحورهم وتشتت شملهم وتفرق جمعهم وتقذف الرعب في قلوبهم وترد عليهم كل عصارهم وكل قدامهم وحراسهم وأخذهم. May Allah put terror in their throats and in their hearts, and whatever they're sending to us, send it back to them. Like I have yet to hear a collective, like a sheikh that is powerful to say, you know what? We need to do this, because in Indonesia or Malaysia, I don't know, what they do is they meditate. Like there's a day that like millions meditate, and subhanallah, for like just that month, the crime rate goes down because they set their intentions on something, right? But these sheikhs, they don't even gather the Muslims together to say, you know what, for this month or this whole year, we're going to make sure that we stay up at 2 a.m. and we make dua. And the dua is going to be about this, and that. But there isn't.
they won't do it because they're all on the same
They're
page.
scared. They're scared for they're scared for the Mahdi to come.
It's not that they're scared, it's that they like their current situation. Mufti Meek, for
Like the
example.
current situation. That's true.
Mufti Meek, for example, he's a graduate of the University of Medina, right? He knows this exact same thing. In fact, on a number of occasions, he played a significant role in deceiving the Muslims with the vaccines. He was a part of the ones who deceived the people with when the Yehud were building the Abrahamic Accord. They built 3 buildings and they said these are the Abrahamic religions. They brought him. They used him. Like, there's a number of times where he conveniently does what they want of the evil. But will he stand for the haqq? You will never find it. Is it because he's a coward? Is it because he's ignorant? Or is it because he's willfully accepted of his condition? Either way, he's a Munaafiq.
I have a question. So, like, someone was saying something about, what did they say over here? Something about meditating isn't going to help. Jihad will help, and it's obligation. Okay. When Battle of Badr happened, before the battle, the Prophet ﷺ made a dua, and he prayed that night. And that is the example that we need to be using to fight our enemies. So at the end of the day, if you open up the book and you look at the stories and you use the prophets and you read his sirah, you have the whole world in your hands, to be honest with you. Because jihad, yes, it's an action, but at the same time, right, at night you have to have conviction that Allah will help you the same way that Allah has helped the Prophet.
100%.
So the dua that the Prophet made when he was praying, that's not meditation. He prayed.
Okay.
He prayed.
The thing is this. Calling it meditation is one thing, but the fact that one has to spend time to be able to internalize and understand themselves, Allah, deen, what they're supposed to do, it has to happen. All of the righteous scholars, they used to have their moment, mostly at nights, where they do nothing else but involve in their ibadah. That is meditation.
Yeah, meditation is dhikr. Like, what's wrong? Can I ask you something, guys? Like, are you guys like dumb in the head? Do you guys not know English words? Also, like, do you guys not compare English words to Arabic words? Dhikr is meditation.
They don't know these things because
you guys are really dumb.
Well, it's just the way that they've been brought up. They don't. It comes back down to this brainwashing that the Wahhabis did. People lost the point of the soul. They lost what you could really do. They feel hopeless. In fact, it's almost Maghrib, I gotta go, but I'm gonna wrap this up with this. Go to link in my bio. I've already written a few books about this matter. Right? In fact, one about the soul, how to purify the soul, how to actually ascend to the position in which you can distinct this fear, this hesitation, this thing that's there. You have to do all of these things. You have to purify yourself. Allah loves those who are pure. Those who are pure. And the purity isn't only of the physical body. You have to purify your soul. And you can only do that through ibadah. You can only do that through actually meditating. In a sense where you have to ponder over yourself, the dhunubs that you did, what you lacked and not, and involve in yourself in sincerely asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is exactly. Yeah, they're playing around. Right? This is exactly what you have to do. Now, that's all the link in my bio. And those who want more evidences of the fatwas and what they've done, it's also there as well. It is all there. You find it there. So, inshallah, I gotta go. It's Maghrib time. I gotta go pray. Gotta go eat, and I'll be back later on, inshallah.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Take care, sister. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.